Hey, Cuban, couple questions, real fast. Name pronunciations. The number 72 car. I'm just going through the program. Ferris Quartami, Cartoumi. Okay. Um, Joachim Sandgaard, number 67. He's in a Subaru. Okay.
Here we are live at Super Lab Battle USA 2024, our sixth annual year here at Circuit of the Americas. Here this year, we do have a few new things going on. Number one, we are blessed with two new commentators. First off, we have Joey Atterbury here with me. Joey, how are you?
I am doing fantastic, Cuban. It is awesome to be here, especially at Circuit of the Americas, kicking off Super Lap Battle for 2024.
For those of you that don't know, Joey has been commentating racing for quite some time, all the way from iRacing to IMSA. This man has been part of the racing community from the bottom to the top, so we are blessed to have him here with us. Also, with me from last year, we have driver extraordinaire, Mr. Subaru himself, Mark Yeager.
Hey everybody, I'm excited to be here. This is my first time at Circuit of the Americas. It's first time at the real Super Lap Battle, and I'm really excited to be here and check out these competitors at the track.
We're also going to be focusing more on drivers and the paddock. So Mark will be here in the tower with me from time to time, but we will see him walking his beautiful self up and down that paddock. Currently, right now, we are out with Group 5, Session 1. For those of you wondering where you can catch your drivers and these times, they are going to be on racehero.io. For those of you that have been following us long enough know that we go by speed index. So we are going to be going from slowest group to fastest group. The only difference would be Group 5 is only max effort and GTX. So these are the Pro Comp from last year, which is max effort, and GTX is the factory race car class. These are guys that want to come out here, show off their time, show off their cars, but not able to do so in a true Time Attack car. Joey, this is your first Time Attack event that you're commentating. How much history do you have with Time Attack? Have you watched it? Have you followed it?
I have followed it plenty. I've been a competitor in the past. Now, I do have to admit it hasn't been a global Time Attack event per se, but back in the Ultimate, I believe it was Ultimate Track Car Showdown back at VIR about 10 years ago. Fastest rear drive, fastest BMW. Got the chance to drive the Rev Motorsports, one series with about 900 wheel horsepower or so, and I know that it's shown up at quite a few other global Time Attack events throughout the East Coast, so it's been a little while since I've been a competitor, but grew up in tuner culture. I know plenty about Time Attack, and I'm happy to be here. It's just going to be really fun, especially with these cars, Cuban. This is definitely my wheelhouse, the true race cars.
That's great to hear. And you do have history here at COTA with your IMSA teams. So let's go over a few things here. I know you personally know the Rafa Racing Club and Rafa and his team with that McLaren. We do have Rob Bell driving that car. If you didn't know, Rob Bell did go fastest at this competition last year. Also, we have... Oh, sorry about that, but we do have Tanner Faust also driving a Porsche 992 GT3 for Rafa Racing Club.
I think that really those two are going to be the ones to watch out in terms of the big names that we are seeing on the racetrack right now. But I love seeing these little prototypes too, just like I believe Jensen Little in this Norma M30, which is also known as an LMP3 car.
Correct. And you know what's funny? There are some names you probably wouldn't be comfortable with because you haven't seen them. But Mike Dussault right here, this Camaro, it's a 69 Camaro. Big single turbo, 18 billion horsepower, and this is actually a Pikes Peak car. So we've been blessed with so many Pikes Peak competitors. You're not here to see it in person, but this car has a turbo the size of my head, and it spools to the moon. So hopefully when we get it on camera, you'll see. This Norma M30 right here is actually driven by Mr. Putrajaya. This is our first session. This is Mr. Dussault right here. This is one of the kind of cars that you don't expect to see at a Time Attack event, and it makes you so happy to see it.
Well, you know, I'm excited to see this car do as many laps as possible. Definitely the 1,300 horsepower that he's putting down in this car, something that he's absolutely put a lot of time and effort in this car. It does Pikes Peak, and absolutely one of the cars that I'm really excited to see go out. He's already done a 209, and we're in the very early stages of this event, so I'm really excited to see what he can actually put down in the later stages.
I was going to jump in and recognize that Camaro from Pikes Peak, and you always got to love a hairdryer the size of your head. Sometimes it's just anticipation for what's about to happen.
Well, to anyone that's not familiar with Pikes Peak, hill climb is very similar to Time Attack, right? But you have to be so much more extreme about everything. The aero has to be more extreme because the air is thinner. The turbos have to be bigger because the air is thinner. The only thing not thinner is me, to be honest with you. But beyond that, everything has to be much more extreme.
And you're right.
Tanner, on the other hand, I haven't seen him in a competition in a while. The biggest thing is Tanner Faust is probably one of the nicest and fastest drivers I've met in person. It's great to see him out here, see what he can lay down in that GT3.
I'm talking about those other drivers. I think it's pretty cool to have the wide variety of pros that you guys do. You were mentioning Tanner Faust, also Rob Bell out there kind of in the mix. Got factory drivers as well as well-known drivers throughout North America here that we can really resonate with.
What's also crazy is we do have a large family of professional drivers. You're an IMSA man yourself, so Mr. Jeff Westfall has been competing with our series forever. He runs 24 Hours of Daytona. Tyler McCreary has also raced in our series many times. It's so nice to see these wheel-to-wheel addicts, these people who are true shoes. Nothing against anyone out there driving, but these are people who are in race cars on raw talent, not because they bring something to the team. And for them to not only go to 24 Hours of Daytona, Mr. Westphal himself, he's the first and only American to ever set pole at the 24 Hours of Nürburgring. So these drivers who have graced us with their presence in Time Attack, it's great to see what they do on the world stage also.
To touch a little bit more on that, I think that Global Time Attack provides a fantastic venue for drivers and teams like that, especially coming over from the professional world. Think about all of the track time that you can get learning out here in a true competitive event where you have to push yourself faster and faster and faster. That's exactly what those drivers that you were just mentioning and those teams are looking for.
I agree 100%. And more so than that, there's something that you get in Time Attack. You are an IMSA man yourself. There is something to be said about passing a driver and staying in front of him. And that is your skill versus theirs. And I have nothing but respect over that. And then there's something else to be said about yourself versus yourself. It's you versus the clock. But really what that is that's you versus yourself to not make any mistakes. And Mark can touch on this, we always say we're chasing that one perfect lap, but I don't believe that exists, does it, Mark?
It absolutely does not. There's always something you can improve upon, and that's absolutely something that will actually eat away at you more than anything else. When you go into a wheel-to-wheel race, when you win the race, you won the race. But when you walk away from a Time Attack, you always look at that lap and you go, I could have been faster. And that's something that these Time Attack guys really look at and strive. They're continually trying to improve. They're continually trying to get that better lap time, and that's such an important and hard fact about Time Attack is we're always striving to do better, and every time we walk away from an event, we always know we could do better. I'm going to tell you right now, after talking to these drivers, definitely one of those situations where you go, man, I had it. I had that perfect lap, and it's the unattainium that you just never quite got there, and it's definitely one of those things that I know for myself. Every time I looked at a record, every time I looked at a lap, I always went, I could have just gotten that little bit more. I could have set that bar a little bit higher for the next guy. Because at the end of the day, records are meant to be broken, and we always want to go faster.
I agree 100%, Mark. And for everyone out there watching, you'll notice that there is a slight coloration to people's times. Rob Bell is the fastest of this session with a 2 minutes flat. You'll notice that his number is a slight gray. The slight gray is going to be the GTX class. That's the factory race car class. Dussault's color is white. White is going to be max effort. We will see more of them as the groups come out. You'll see yellow, green, blue, and black. We will explain that as it comes out, but that's something for the keen eye. If you're wondering if maybe the coloration is off, it's all class-based. These drivers are out here on the first session of the day. We did have practice yesterday, but it was a good 15 to 18 degrees higher. We can have Joey attest to this, but how big of a difference is it when you practice in the heat and you come and it's cool, there's a 14-mile-an-hour wind, there's a chill in the air?
Well, and especially talking about this specific racetrack, guys, in the morning, it is cold, and we're getting the shots right now. It's overcast, but it is still early. It's only 8:30 a.m. in Texas. Who knows what the weather is going to be like here in the afternoon. So really, I look at these morning sessions, like you were saying, when it's cold, when you have the right air temperature, you got to go out and really lay it down early, and hopefully it sticks, because when it warms up 20 degrees, the car is essentially not going to do everything that you want it to do. It might only give you 0.8, right? If you go into the brake zone and you want to push it to your absolute limit, well, it might not give it to you because simply the grip level isn't there. So I look at morning sessions, not really in the lunch or the afternoon, but the morning sessions when it's nice and cool. If you're prepared, you can go haul the mail.
Well, true, because what it does give you is it gives you all the power. Mark will tell you he ran turbocharged cars. When you're cold outside, the air density is high, the turbo is happy, the motor is happy. The one thing that isn't happy, especially in all classes below unlimited, are the tires, because we don't allow tire warmers. So you have to go out there, the car has to be prepped, and to be able to go as fast as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. That's something that's really going to play a big hindrance in today, right? All these guys, like you said, practiced. It was hot. They set up their cars to work in that heat. Now we're going to be turning that way down in terms of the amount of air density and stuff like that. So the ability for those turbochargers to actually get more power out of it is going to be immense. The NA guys, we had a couple people yesterday with a few teething issues because of heat. So now they're going to end up with a lot better conditions, which is really going to help them out. Now, I know for a fact, one guy, Kyle McHugh, he was really struggling with those temperatures. So we're very interested to see if his Supra is going to be able to benefit from this cooler air and see if he's going to be able to put down some flyers with that set.
Absolutely. And as you'll see, we do have these cars gridding up for Group 4. From Group 4, we're actually going to be following car 53, Mr. Robert Ruschan of Red Dragon Racing. Let's talk about drama. Joey, you weren't here, so I want to tell you about a little drama we've already had. We did lose a competitor yesterday to a possible mechanical where the car snapped into a direction. It caused some damage. Car's gone. It was a Civic Type R. Robert Rushton, who has reset records at every track he's ever gone to, the fuel pump failed on his Type R. If you want to talk about competitiveness versus camaraderie, I've never been in a racing series where no one wants to win unless the other person is at their best. The vehicle that failed, the vehicle that had damage, pulled the fuel pump out of their car, gave it to Robert, and now Robert's going to go out there and send it this first session.
Yeah, I was absolutely just excited to hear this. This is exactly what Time Attack is all about, right? We don't want to just win off of, hey, someone else had a whoopsie, had a something wrong with their car, right? We want to win because guess what? We're the fastest car out there. So this guy had an incident. He's not going to be able to compete, but he knew that Robert needed this part. He cannibalized his car. He got it for him. Now Robert's going to be able to actually enjoy the event and have a good one. So we're really excited to see Robert go out and see what he can do with his Civic Type R in this first session.
That is Robert leaving the paddock right there, for those of you wondering. This is going to be the number 53 Red Dragon Racing, this beautiful gray, black, and red Type R. You'll notice that he has a yellow window banner. That yellow will also be the same thing as his color on his name in timing and scoring. Because we do not put the classes together, we do it all by speed density. This is so you guys can see who is fighting who in class, who is the person who's leading who in the session. Maybe someone in enthusiast is just getting it and someone in streets having issues. You're going to see how well that driver is doing. So make sure to keep track of not only your favorite drivers, but what classes they're in. And not to cut myself off, but that Civic right there, that's the Gran Turismo Civic. That's the one that's on PlayStation, my friends. Woo. No one believed it was a real car. He's from Arizona. I've seen it many times, but that is a beautiful, beautiful wide body EG.
And I heard it just came out of hibernation, basically, to get into this event. So I'm pretty excited that he brought this car back into good working order, and now he's going to go do what he does with it, and that is track it, beat it, run it hard.
I think one of the fun things that we see here at Global Time Attack, you're talking about an EG Civic, and you know, we're all the same age up here in the commentary booth. That's a car from our era, right? We grew up with the EGs and the B16s and the B18s, and it is so cool. It doesn't matter if you're in a brand new Honda Civic like we see on the screen, or if you're in a 25, 30-year-old car, you can still come out here and make it competitive, which is ultra cool to see.
Well, you know what, and Mark and I have a test this. Let's get this out of the way before we watch this beautiful lap. The thing is, it's the balance of old versus new. You buy a new car, it doesn't have the 20 years of development. You have to make it work. You buy an old car, it has all the development in the world, but you're dealing with old car problems.
Absolutely.
What I really like about old cars, and I shouldn't say old, I should reference about 15 to 20 years old, I feel like they've really got some character in them. When you get behind the wheel of an EG, it feels like an EG. When you get behind the wheel of an E36 M3, it gives you that character. When you get behind an S13, it still feels like an S13. And you get into a lot of modern cars now, and they have so many, call it nannies, to help you out. And holy smokes, they make it wicked fast, but it loses a little bit of its luster to me.
You know, I want to agree with you, but as someone who owned a Civic Type R for quite some time, and someone who has an Integra and an EG race car, the new cars are fun too, buddy.
trust me, got plenty of GT3, GT4 time, so know all about the fun new stuff, and I think that's just kind of exactly what we're touching on. Doesn't matter if you're in a race car or if they are in a 25-year-old Honda, you can definitely come out here and wring its neck.
Oh, absolutely. So this is going to be Mr. Steve Wynn, I believe, starting his hot lap. We do have quite a few Type Rs, just like you're going to see quite a few Supras. Now, the great thing is these cars are going to make their lap time through the S's. They're going to make them through the triple apex hander. These cars do not make huge power. You're talking 400 to 600 in these vehicles. So as soon as he's out, we should see Robert Ruschan in the 53 Red Dragon Racing, probably coming off the final corner in the next couple of seconds. Steve was here last year, though. He did a killer job on that one.
Yeah, his last year's lap, he ran a 232.2, so he is expecting to break that 2 minute and 30 barrier with his car. He's got 380 wheel horsepower in that thing, so he's definitely expecting to improve on that lap time.
Well, and Robert Rushton is the same thing. He actually did his fastest lap time in practice. So he's probably one of the most badass competitors, and I'm going to explain this to you. This man's car caught on fire at Road Atlanta. He pulls it in, they put it out, they figure out what it is, and he goes out the same session.
Wow. Wow.
So as somebody who's driven here at Circuit of the Americas and has a lot of history here, talk to me through this lap, sir. This is you, Joey. So what is Robert fighting right now? Especially on this track, it has a couple repaves, so we got some understeer zones. What is he fighting in these sections?
Well, especially kind of more in a front-wheel drive car. This is one of the slower sections, and now you accelerate up over the top of the hill known as Turn 10 right here, and dive down the hill towards Turn 11. This corner that he's approaching right now is so important on the entry, but it's more important on the exit because it leads onto the longest straightaway on the track. So you really have to line up that exit, put the power down nice and cleanly without any wheel spinning. I know that you guys are very familiar with all the different types of cars and builds. These front-wheel drive cars, it's not always easy to put that power down coming out of the corner exits, especially the sharp turns.
100%. And I don't know if you noticed the color difference here of the asphalt, but the turn-in and the traction zone are all repaves. So what does that say to you? That says understeer, that says harder to put power down, that says it all.
And you got to work the differential between having it in and coming out on the power down, so it's all going to be in various settings within the drive line, within the shocks and springs and sway bar combinations to really get this car moving. And this is the slowest corner on the track, Turn 16. And one thing to note, a front-wheel drive car, you are going to be pulling your hair out quite a bit around this place just because look at how long a lot of these corners are. You really have to hold that front end down towards the apex what seems like forever.
Oh, absolutely, especially around that final triple apex right-hander. It looks like he's about to be going around turn 19 to 20. Now, 19 to 20 is probably the most dead zone on this track, but you know what we have? We have drones, my friend. The production crew here is incredible. Let's see what he lays down. A 234.039. This man has only done a 236 in his history, so he's chasing a 230, but he's going in the right direction.
Absolutely. That's absolutely astonishing for him. He actually said yesterday he did a 1 second better lap than he's ever done before, so he was at a 235 in practice. Now he's already got himself down to a 234, so he's just pushing that car to his limits there and getting it set up really early on in the event, which is really good to see.
Also great to see that he is leading this session. If you ever met Robert, he's such a personality, you know. He looks like just your he doesn't look like someone that owned a Civic, not that we want to stereotype, but he's a very stocky man, got a strong, he looks like he owns a Harley, if you could understand what I'm saying.
I was thinking Camaro.
Camaro is a good way to look at it,
God bless,
absolutely.
brother.
God bless, brother. But he absolutely looks like that, and he gets in the Civic and he's a blast. I watched him at Road Atlanta, and I hate to talk about other events, but we have to talk about this man's history. I watched him at Road Atlanta. You know Road Atlanta well. How often do you see someone go down the final corner and jump the curb with the entire inside of their car?
Yeah, that's not quite often the most popular line, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, he did it every lap. When he reset the record, he reset it back to back. I watched him carry more speed than any other front-wheel drive car I've seen. Jump the curb, car sideways, opposite lock, go across start-finish, reset the record, do his cool down, come in, and he gets to his pits, he gets out of his car, and he just falls on his back with his hands up like, Jesus, I made it, and that was the end of his event.
And Cuban, I'll tell you what, the reason why he's probably doing that is exactly what we were just talking about with the front-wheel drive and the long corners here at COTA. Coming down the hill at Road America, or I shouldn't say Road America, at Road Atlanta, you are hauling the mail down there, and you are accelerating all the way down through that zone. So if you lift off at all, you are bleeding time, and you just described what a driver that wants to get a record did. He kept it flat and jumped over that curb, and
100%. And anyone that's driven front-wheel drive, oh, we have Steve Wynn with a 2:33.214. It was his second lap on a cold day. The tires are coming in. This is what we're talking about. Took a full second off of Robert Ruschan right there.
With that said, he still has a 2:32.2.
Oh, Robert Rushton.
Oh, answer's back. Answer's back, baby. Now we are expecting Steve Wynn to deliver a 2:32 at some point during this broadcast.
I was going to say, I really feel like the times, honestly, with this run group are just going to continue to pick up. You're going to see that.
So obviously we already stated that Steve Wynn has a 380 wheel horsepower car. With that said, Robert Rushton's running with 550 wheel horsepower. So that is a big horsepower disparity. But with that said, you got to set the car up. You got to get the tires in play and get it right.
Well, and more than that, like Mr. Pat over here was letting us know, you got to be able to put the power down. And a lot of these traction zones are repaves. Like he was talking about at Road Atlanta, you know, when you're on power, downhill, off camber, it doesn't matter how much power you make. It's all about how much traction you can get out of the vehicle, which you can attest to it, Mark. Well, you know, he can attest to it. Power transfer and power to the ground has a lot to do with weight transfer, how smooth you are from left to right. A lot of people think about braking, but no one thinks about how you transition from braking to acceleration. That's everything on how to put power down in a car.
You are talking to my heart and soul. I love vehicle dynamics. I could sit here and talk car setup all day long with you. And yeah, I agree. The other thing I want to say is everybody thinks about horsepower, right? We were talking about 1,300 horsepower in some of these cars earlier. Well, none of that horsepower is any good if you can't put it to the ground. So not only do you have to be careful with the right foot, you got all of these electronic aids with traction control nowadays to help you out, but it also comes down to that drive line. What diff do you have in there? What are the shock and spring settings? Make sure the car can actually drive forward as well as go around some of these corners.
I agree 100%. And for those of you wondering, let's go over a few of these cars. Mr. Brad Wells in the Phoenix Autosport Corvette Z51. He's doing a 2:33.720. His fastest lap here ever is a 2:27. This is a NASA TT3 time trial car.
Yeah, a big thing about that car is really he only brought a 350 wheel horsepower Corvette to a battle where a lot of these Corvettes can make up to 1,300 horsepower. So he's definitely lacking a little bit of the horsepower, but he definitely has the experience and definitely has the grip. He said yesterday he was just getting used to the track, getting used to the grip levels, getting used to the corners, and I think we're going to see his time steadily improve over the weekend.
Let's talk a little bit more about, because my friend Mr. Atterbury here did make a great point. I want to talk about car 17. He's a 245.547 right now. I'm sorry, 245.175. That's Mr. Timmy Turner in his E46 M3. You know what he's got in that thing, Patrick? He has a bone stock E46 M3 with aftermarket ITBs, and the thing is just gorgeous.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. That car is absolutely beautiful. From the moment that he registered, I was really excited to see it. Great looking car. And we were kind of on shining over during the tech yesterday, although we did take his pit area to do that tech, so that was fun.
This M3 is kind of like a black and orange color. It's a full bolt-on S50 bore. It's car number 17. Now, whether we can catch him or not, this is the kind of car that you want to look at. I believe that he is going to be turning onto the front straight right now. It is white with a little red and orange livery on it.
There
It
is.
looks like our production is incredible, man. They caught that thing immediately.
Look how beautiful that car is.
Now, I gotta ask you guys, because it definitely has the competition kit on it. Was this a former PTG car, or did he build this himself?
Built it himself, former street car.
Awesome. So he's got all the CSL kit and everything on it, and I love BMWs. I'm a BMW fanboy, so that S54 motor coupled into that chassis, it's a great combination. Yes, it might be quote-unquote a little bit underpowered when you look at some of these other monsters that are out here, but when you talk about a well-balanced car around Circuit of the Americas, that E46 combined with that S54 platform, it's got the 6-speed transmission in it, so it should be an absolute blast to drive.
Absolutely. And you know what we love about him? He's someone that hasn't ran with us before. He's been doing HPDE, TT3, and he threw his hand into the ring, you know? This is for us. This is what we tell people. This is a bug. Same thing probably happened to you when you were doing the time trials on the East Coast, right? You're like, oh, time attack, that's kind of like qualifying, right? And then you do your first time attack event and go, okay, I need some more of that in my life.
It's pretty cool. I just love the competition factor, right? I'm a person, I grew up thriving on competition, and it didn't matter if it was cars. I grew up swimming, I grew up skiing, I grew up playing baseball, but then I found the automotive industry. I found the tuner culture as I kind of grew up as a teenager, and then you're right. That just developed into the competitive nature of taking it racing, taking it time attack racing, and it's awesome to find a whole other group that has the same interests as you, loves the same cars, and you get to go out there and have fun on the playground together.
No, I agree, and everyone's a little bit different, right? Mark and I were just talking very quickly about who's in first place, and you know, Mark, I'll let you give us who he is. Tell us everything you know about this gentleman.
Oh, yeah, so Samuel Nafzinger. Yeah, Samuel Nafzinger is coming up to us from Honest Assembly. He's got a Porsche GT3 RS. So we're thinking this car is pretty much a very stock Porsche GT3 RS. He's going to be coming to us in limited class, rear-wheel drive. Basically, well, it's going to be a Porsche, so it's going to turn good laps around this, and he's going to be able to turn as many laps as he freaking wants. So it's going to be pretty interesting to see as he goes and see if he can improve that time from a 29 and go deeper into the 20s.
And I had to put Mark on the spot here because we heard Patrick talking about his personal history, everything he did. And Samuel's one of those drivers that doesn't want anyone to know about him. He just wanted to show up and race. It's the true juxtaposition of drivers. Some people want to be known. Some people want to put down lap times. Every competitor had a chance to give us information about themselves. And if Samuel could, he probably wouldn't have even given us the car type.
Yeah, he probably wouldn't even give us his name.
I do think that one of the coolest parts about the paddock, we're talking about different types of drivers, right? And who wants to give out information, who wants to be sharing, who's going to give each other help in the paddock. But one thing so cool about every single paddock I've been a part of, and you guys were highlighting it earlier with the camaraderie, is that everybody has the same interests out here, right? Everybody's here for the same reason. So no matter how different you are, trust me, you got something in common.
I agree 100%. And for those of you wondering, this is going to be the end of this session. It is checkered flag, so those times are going to be live. Robert Ruschan with a 232.837. Steve Wynn with a 233.214. Samuel Nafziger is in the lead of the session. Oh my goodness, Brad Wells just pulled 3 seconds off of his time to take himself into second in the session. That's
pretty impressive.
I agree 100%. And the best part about it is we're going to see these guys continue to go. It does look like we have Chris Matthews and Corey Kreider. Corey's one of Mark Yeager's people right here, Subaru folk.
Subaru.
So we got Chris Matthews and Corey Kreider in street class. Tim Turner and Tuan Ho also there. As these cars come in, let's go ahead and talk about what's going to go on the upcoming session. This is going to be Group 3 coming up. Group 3 coming up. As we do go by speed index, some of these drivers did not have a most recent lap time here at Circuit of the Americas. So what's going to happen now is they're all going to go out, they're going to set their lap times, and after lunch, after the second run group, Pat, we do a restack of the drivers. At no point do we make everyone stay in the same place. Some people are going to improve significantly. Other people are already in the right spot. We want to make sure that no one is ever impeded on a hot lap where someone significantly slower is in front of you. That way you can always set your peak lap time.
I think that's a good way to do it too, and kind of just ensures that everybody doesn't trip over each other. And I think the most common one that comes to mind is if you guys watch F1 on TV, right? We always see them tripping over each other on the slow laps, the out laps versus the hot laps, and it's exactly what you guys have organized a system to prevent, which is pretty cool.
Oh, absolutely, and we're very strict. Listen, that's stuff that, and we all hate it, okay? You're trying to watch qualifying in Formula One, and you know what you're seeing? You're seeing 13 cars on the back straight doing 9 miles an hour, playing this shuffle game, which who's going to go first? We're firm here. So for those of you who have never competed with us and are curious about how the outlap works, you go out and you have to keep your gap to the person in front of you. The only person that can impede your lap is yourself. If you're up the wazoo of the car in front of you, you're going to hurt your lap time. And you know what? That's on you. We release you with 15 to 20 second gap, and it's your responsibility to do that gap. If the guy in front is doing 70%, you do 70%. After the first hot lap, then things may shuffle, but the only person that's going to hurt their lap time is you yourself. So when people are complaining about traffic or saying that I couldn't get a clean first lap in, it's probably because they were way too antsy. It does look like we have an in-car. From what I'm seeing, I want to say this is Will Dries in the Hyundai Elantra. Oh, it is our follow man, Mr. Soto. Our production team is slaying it. We were going to follow Mr. Soto's lap, and they snuck a camera in his car. How incredible. How do you feel about this view right here, Pap?
I think this view out here is pretty awesome, quite honestly, and I love it. To talk about this car just a little bit, a lot of people kind of overlook these Cadillacs, and these V cars are not one to sleep on. Holy smokes, they have got some serious motor under the hood.
Well, and this is actually one of the smaller motor cars. This is an ATS-V. There's nothing to hate on, but these things still book it. He's a California native, and he has set down some very respectable lap times at California tracks. The most popular of obviously being Buttonwillow. He's done a 56 there. I believe he's done a 118 at Streets of Willow.
I think it was a 119, but still epically fast.
Exactly. Now, obviously, those are two very technical tracks. Buttonwillow being high speed and technical, Streets of Willow being very technical where speed is not everything. So here you have to really put it together. Pat, give us a little bit of insight on this. But from my personal opinion, there's so much power required here to do the straights. So if we throw those away, to set down a fast lap, you got to be fast through the S's, you got to be fast through the slow corners. And in my opinion, that triple apex right-hander, you got to nail that to hit the braking zone to make your final left.
When we talk about Circuit of the Americas, and I think of the racetrack as a whole, it is one of the most mentally challenging and physically challenging racetracks for these drivers to go up against. You not only have tons of elevation, but every single sector here, every turn, it feeds into the next turn. So if you get behind at all in some of these S sections, your lap is completely blown. And the first S section, guess what? It comes at turn number 3, and it just feeds into each other one after another. You get a little bit of a break down the back straightaway there after turn number 11, but then once again it feeds into an incredibly technical slow speed section. So if you're behind the track, if you're behind the car at all, there goes your lap time pretty much out the window. And these drivers are now setting off on their first green flag lap of the session.
Well, talk to me about the juxtaposition of an E46 M3 versus a new modern era M. Those new cars, they're incredible. They make great power. They have all the nannies. But to me, I just love the E46, man.
So when we talk about BMWs, I'll bring up a little bit of a personal bit over here. I've got an E28 M5 in
You know what?
garage
I don't mean to
here.
cut you off. Let's follow Mr. Soto on his lap. We have a camera in his car, but we're going to follow it also. So talk to me about this downhill turn 1 into the S's. What are the struggles that they have coming off of this corner into that?
Well, turn 2 specifically, you're accelerating downhill and you hit the compression, so you actually have a little bit of grip, extra grip there to help the confidence. But as we follow him through the S section now, this is going to be coming up through turns 6, 7, 8, and 9 here. You really have to whoa up this Cadillac. That left-hander right there is deceptively slow, and you carry a lot of speed into it. And then, as you can see, you cannot see over the crest right here at turn number 9. Got to make sure your car is in the right place on the track and then huck it into this really fast turn 10. Continue down the straight here, hit the brake marker nice and early. Don't overshoot it here, because if you blow the apex, you blow all of your speed down this long straightaway. And with that Cadillac, it is all about putting the power down, coming out of turn number 11 down there. And now you can take a little breath, Cuban. You got 0.6 of a mile before you got to hit the brakes.
That's a heck of a back straight, Joey. And you literally nailed something there that a lot of people cannot see on stream. There's so many blind crests, so many blind corners that he literally had to chuck the vehicle into. Now, he went down that back straight. He made the left-hander. What does he have to do to really complete this lap strong?
This is the slowest section of the racetrack right here, so you have to be patient, right? Don't go charging into it. Let the front end do its work, and actually looks like the Cadillac has a nice pointy front end on it. And now we accelerate up to the parabolic turn. This is accelerating throughout, so you have to manage that right foot, manage the speed, and actually looks like this lap might be compromised just a touch for the Cadillac, as he's got to go around some of these slower cars on track and come up to turn 19. Have to deal with more traffic out there, so I think this lap is going to be a little bit compromised. He's probably going to set up, maybe even bring it in.
It does look like he's going to come
everything.
in. So the BMW was significantly ahead of him, and I believe he either had an off or an issue. That's going to be one of the very few times where your hot lap is going to be compromised. When someone who was significantly ahead of you has an off or an issue. You're, like you said, he was going through the parabolica, and that's a pretty blind right-hander. You're doing basically 180 degrees worth of turn. You can't see what's on the other side of that.
And it's incredibly fast through that turn. You're accelerating third, fourth gear through there, well above 100 miles an hour, at least by the second apex. So he did the smart thing when he saw a car off speed, off pace. He did exactly that to lift it off of the gas, avoided any sort of unnecessary incident. But these are cars still going around through the S section, so we still got action on track, albeit not that Cadillac that we were just following.
Not at all. We do have 3 lap times set. Mark, break it down to me. What are these times? Who are they? What are they running? What kind of cars are they?
Well, big thing we got to start us off, we got Alex Roy. So Alex Roy showed up in this sweet BMW, the white BMW, completely clean slate, right? This car is actually much quicker than I anticipated, but whoa, man, we just had Mr. Humphreys set up a 225 in the AMG, which again, this is the one of 2 that we had. They actually both run the same aero package, which is very interesting in itself. It was actually developed by the Fortners, and Humphreys ended up getting it from them.
Did you see Jesse Selinsky and Ulrich Zerka really sending it that lap? I just watched him take it on the inside of a Supra right there. For those of you that don't know, the black and yellow S2000, that's Jesse Selinsky and Ulrich Zerka. They have not had any test hits on this car, basically. During practice day, they went out, the flat bottom broke. They come back in, they have to fix the car. They have no laps in this car. So to see him come out and lay down a 229 right off the rip, and this is Ulrich driving, that's an incredible lap time.
Well, I'm going to say this. I don't even think that was a real power lap. I think that's more like a sighting lap, just trying to get used to the car, setting it up. So I just think we're going to see way more out of that car and out of them throughout the weekend.
I agree, and this is where it gets a little hectic. We do have a lot of cars on track. We're going to try to keep track of what the times are. But back to Mr. Roy, 230. That's going to be the AMG. He's one of 2 AMGs here. What about Mr. Stillwetter and Mr. Torres? Isaac Torres is in the Porsche GT3 RS. I believe he's here with his son, right?
Well, the big thing here is, big story here is Isaac Torres Sr., Isaac Torres Jr. Junior's in a Type R, or sorry, he's in a Supra, which they actually told us yesterday they thought they lost the transmission. But he's out on track. So that's a very interesting turn of events. I'm going to have to go interview and see what the heck's going on there, because originally they were telling us they might have to share the Porsche. So this is kind of interesting. We'll have to go find out some more information at a later date.
Absolutely. And this is going to be Group 3, Session 1. For those of you tuning in, remember, if you're trying to find these lap times, if you're trying to see people who have already been on track, or if you want to see who is going to be going out on track, it's going to be racehero.io. Whether you're following us online or you're here at the event, you can watch timing and scoring live, and you can also see the sessions that have happened. On racehero.io, it allows you to even see every lap they've done, not just their fastest. Now, it does look like on this large circuit, we are starting to get a small clump of drivers. Joey, I know you haven't done a lot of time attack, but there's something that these drivers can all do that not everyone takes a benefit. You could come into the pit, ask the guy sending you out, just give me a gap. What would you be doing right now if you were in this train of cars and you're not in a wheel-to-wheel race?
Exactly what you just said. And sometimes it can be difficult to separate yourself from inside the car. And when I talk about that is when you strap yourself in, when you put that helmet on, you are so focused on exactly what you need to do. Sometimes you just need to look in the mirror a little bit, kind of gain a sense of what's around you. And like you were just saying, we can get a gaggle of cars out there. And the whole idea in a qualifying lap is not to be held up by others. So sometimes you just have to think of what I call the Bob Ross landscape, the big picture of everything, and realize what is going to be best for you to make the lap. And usually in a qualifying effort, in a time attack effort, that means nobody else on the track, nobody to impede you front or rear, breathing down your neck in those mirrors. So if you've got a crew member in the pits there, if they can tell you where the clean track is, yes, that would be great to essentially pull it down, take a breath, and then go back out there in some nice, clean racetrack.
Well, absolutely, and I think you nailed a point right there. The biggest thing is you want as much clear track as possible, and we're in Group 3. There's not a lot of high aero cars out here yet, but even in time attack, within 3+ seconds of the car, you're catching aero wash, and on these high-speed corners, they create serious understeer scenarios. You're going to see in Group 2 and Group 1 some pretty big aero cars, and anybody that's ever been in a high downforce, high aero car knows the closer you are to the car in front of you, yes, you do have more straight line speed, but you lose every bit of front grip because of it.
And naturally, the cars made nowadays, they just have some understeer built into them, so that's why we see these giant splitters and wings on these things to really get the grip to make the car turn that's needed. And like you were saying, in some of the classes that's not allowed here, so the natural tendency of a car is definitely to understeer a little bit, and that's where the vehicle dynamics comes in. That's where I love to talk about things, and coming out to a racetrack and the car doesn't do something, but at the end of the day you make those adjustments and it's driving exactly how you want. That's what makes a really fun day.
I agree 100%. And it does look like we have a new fastest lap, Mark. What do we got going on here on timing and scoring?
All right, so we got Matt Davis, right? He's here from Mode Push with his BMW M3 in limited class. He's expecting to run sub 220, and he's proven it. He's got a 221 on the first session, and I'm really excited. Before this, his best lap time was a 225. So this is already a 4-second improvement off of his previous lap time. He's got 20 years in driving experience in motorsports between HPE, drifting, racing. He's a local instructor, currently performs driving instructor for Rafa Racing Club. And this BMW actually isn't, I wouldn't say extremely modified, but definitely has a lot of modifications to it, with suspension, upgraded turbos, OS Geiken rear differential, a lot of the stuff that some guys tend to neglect, stuff like the diffs, right? He does have a CSF full cooling system and suit, which is really helpful, not today when it's ice cold, but in days where it's a little bit warmer. So definitely some good parts on this car, and he's able to make 650 wheel horsepower with it and really put down that power.
It does. He did lay down a killer lap time. like you said, he wants to go sub 220, but the fastest he's ever been here is 225. So to do a 221 right off the rip, that's going to be a huge deal. It does look like Mr. Soto did end up laying down a great lap, though, a 226.709. I believe his goal was to be sub 225, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, that is the case. Now, with that said, he's definitely going to be hunting here. Now, he did run a good time in a 226, which is a second faster than he ever has before, but he is hunting for that 225 later on. I will say it is the first session of the weekend, so maybe he's just still getting used to the track, getting used to the car. Maybe, as a lot of people do in time attack, we generally tend to kind of push the envelope right before an event.
And this car number 44, white, black, and gray 370Z, this is Jonathan Wheeler. See if we can stick with him because he hasn't laid a lap down yet. He has been in and out of the pits, and that's why his time is a 10:39.496. For those of you wondering, this is last year's Enthusiast Champion, and to let you know, Joey, these guys are not allowed to race Enthusiast again after they win. Enthusiast is the entry-level class at Super Lap Battles, so this is something you probably didn't know about. He won Super Lap last year, which means he gets to defend it this year, and then he has to bump up a class. He has done a 226.800. That is the Enthusiast rear-wheel drive record. That is the lowest class we have. That is their rear-wheel drive record. He's here trying to defend it. It's very difficult in my opinion because if he shows up and gets beat, he doesn't get to end on top, but he could also put a huge stamp on it here. Do you have any questions about our Enthusiast class or how classing is so we can help explain it to other people, or do you think you understand it well?
No, I've got a good grip on it, and I just love that there's a spot for everyone, whether you're starting out or whether you're defending your championship and trying to move up the next class as a driver.
I think that's great. And like you said, yes, in the higher classes, in the higher horsepower cars, the money matters, guys. Racing isn't cheap. Every time I hear someone tell me, yeah, but I don't, well, he has the money. Every class of racing is expensive, guys. We work our butts off. We do what we love. We do what we have to be able to do what we love. Anybody that has a hobby they love, whether it's riding bicycles, whether it's mountain biking, whether it's hiking, whether it's gaming, whether it's sim racing, you could get $20,000 into a hobby and not even realize it happened.
Yes, you're barking up the wrong tree over here. I've done it way too many times, and I believe one of the other cool parts about the Enthusiast class, and correct me if I'm wrong over here, is that the driver must actually be the registered owner of the car, so this has to be their heart and soul that they've been pouring all their work into.
You literally nailed it. There's no shoes allowed in Enthusiast class. So he's about a second off his record. Obviously, this is his first time out, but he's about a second off. It looks like we have Ulrich Zerka going across. Ulrich ends the session first with a 221.682. What a great lap.
What did I say?
Not to take away from Wheeler, but to better explain what Joey asked. You have to be the registered owner. It has to be registered and insured. It has to have a catalytic converter. This is as close to a street car as you can get for a track car. Now, a lot of these enthusiast guys actually drive their cars on the street every day. I believe Jonathan Wheeler's to the point where it is no longer a street car for him because he's pushing it to be the next class. But you are correct. Let's say you're a great shoe Joey. He can't call you today and go, hey, I want you to drive my car at this event tomorrow, because he wouldn't be allowed to be in street. I mean, enthusiast.
Oh, man. I'd have to be one of those egotistical drivers walking around the paddock in their driving suit with nothing to drive. Man, bummer.
I agree, 100%. So how do you feel about this one, Mark? Mark has, for those of you that don't know, Mark has spent the last month trying to make some mathematical equation in his brain, which for him is 2 + 2 = 5. But he has this amazing thought process on who is ending where. If he's correct, we're winning the lottery after this. But at the end of this session, Mark, how do you feel on the times that have been laid down versus what you expected to see on this first run group?
Honestly, they're spot on, absolutely spot on. Now, this is very early on in the event, so again, expectations are not truly high. Most people come out in these first sessions, throw on a set of scrubs. They're still feeling out the car. They're still dialing it in. Now, with that said, I will say the Zielinski situation here with a 221 with Ulrich driving, that impressed me. I was definitely expecting more of a mid 220. Now they're already in that low 221, which is absolutely astounding. They are projecting that they'll get to a 219, but honestly, at this juncture, I might say they're going to go further. I might say we might end up with a 217 out of them, which is going to be absolutely astounding for them and that car. So that's definitely going to be something we're going to have to continue to watch out for as they move up.
I don't know if I can give you 100% agreement on that, buddy, maybe 75%, but they are out there proving it. Ulrich Zerka is a shoe. He was raised in the industry. For those of you that don't know, nepotism is real. His father is one of the tech guys. His father runs a race shop, and Ulrich's been in karts since he was a kid. So for anybody that knows Ulrich, he's really grown up in this world, and he is laying it down. As you can see here, this is grid for Group 2. In Group 2, we're going to be following the Project Import S2000. For those of you that don't know, Joey also, this is a time attack car. That's the history of it that now runs Pikes Peak. So this is a quote-unquote test event. No one would ever say this is a test event, but if they kill it here, they know they're walking into Pikes Peak with some strong coming behind them. So we're going to be following the Project Import S2000, but as you can see, this is where you're really starting to get into the faster of the fast cars. And like every event you go to, Joey, I don't know if you follow out a time attack, but when you start to get into the faster cars, you start running into these BMW Supras like crazy.
I like that combination there. Yes, they're pretty much the same once you take off all the bodywork, so certainly seems like a popular choice out there. And I think it just kind of comes with the times, right? Right now they're popular, they're very fast, they've got a good chassis underneath them, so you see them picked a lot for some fast lap times out there. But of all the cars that are lined up, I know it's pink, but that NSX, I have a very soft spot for one of those cars. And if y'all have never
Are you a
driven
purist,
an NSX
Joey?
before, I mean, I'm a bit of a purist.
Can
are
I?
you about to
Okay,
ruin
so
my day over here?
Can you guess what motor is in that car?
Ooh, you know, you're going to tell me it's not stock. If I was to guess, it's probably one of those IndyCar swaps, one of those old IndyCar motor swaps.
Honda Civic Type R FK8. The
Okay,
one and
yeah,
only
see,
K20C.
Okay, that's very interesting. So, and you talk about the drivetrain in those OG NSXs, it's probably worth the upgrade for sure to something more modern. But just to talk about that car, if you know anything about driving, if you've read anything about driving and oversteer and understeer and the transfer of weight and how you do that with the gas pedal and the brake pedal, well, the NSX, it does it all by the book. How you read it, that's exactly how the car reacts. It just, there's a couple others, a Porsche Boxster, a Cayman handles very similar, but they are just so much fun to drive.
I agree 100%. And the K-swap in NSX is not new, right? One of the fastest time attack cars in North America belongs to Amir Bentatu, and that is a standard K-series swapped, big turbo, amazing fast car. Well, that's Ravi from We Don't Lift in his NSX. He decided that he wanted to do something cool, but he wanted to do it in a way no one ever has. So he has a one-off engine swap. No one's ever done this before. He had mounts custom made. It is on Motec. And I have watched him develop this car, and I've also watched him tear his hair out. 2 weeks before the event, it was on the dyno, turbo let go. A week before he's on event, he's on the dyno, charge pipes, boost leaks everywhere. And you know what? He got it done, though. He got it together. Anyone who's been racing for a long time knows that you're going to put your heart and soul into it, and you don't give up till the event.
Well, I think that Mark is probably the freshest in the garage over there with the builds and whatnot. Now, me as a driver coming over from the other paddock, if the crew guys see me with some wrenches in my hands, they immediately take it away. But Mark, I'm sure that building the car and running into some of those frustrations, getting it ready for the event, making sure everything is ready to go, you know all about that.
No, Mark absolutely does know about building for events and frustrations. Mark, while they're doing their warm-up laps, let us know what it's like. How does it feel to know that the event is coming up to you and time is running out and the car isn't running yet? What is going through your mind?
Well, I know I have sadly been in that situation one too many times, and I can tell you right now, one of my biggest stories, and going back to going to different places, having to travel, getting a car ready. So the historic thing I always tell is we're getting ready for Road Atlanta, trying to get the car there, and one of the situations that happens is just working on the car, long nights. You're talking not getting any sleep, 2-3 hours of sleep, sleeping on couches at shops. Definitely one of those situations that's hair-raising. Your stress is at a full-time high. It's not very fun, and as a driver, mechanic, funder, everything all under the sun, you're generally sitting there just stressed as a full-blown stress. Then the best part is, then you get to hop into a car, and in my case, drive from California to Atlanta. And then once we got to Atlanta, we showed up around 4 in the morning, and then had to work on the car when we got to Atlanta to get it ready to then go racing. So it was a fun trip of not getting anything but like an hour of sleep during the entire drive to Atlanta, getting to Atlanta, then having to continue to build the car, and then jump into practice immediately.
I believe the moral of that story is don't race Subarus.
Yeah, a little bit. Although I will say, there's some other cars that do the same thing.
I agree. This is love for all you Subaru fans out there. This isn't hate to you. This is just hate to my co-commentator Mark. Okay, we have decades of history together here.
There are more Subarus entered in this event than Evos. That's all I got to say.
Correct. There are more motors that will need to be replaced after this event is over than Evos. It does look like we do have the front runners here. For those of you who don't know, I don't know if you follow much World Time Attack or what's going on the other side of the pond. Brett Dickey is driving the Project Import S2000. Brett Dickey is from Australia. He does race not only in World Time Attack, he races in his incredible rear-wheel drive Prelude in a wheel-to-wheel series. He's out here right now testing the S2000 specifically for Pikes Peak, and then he'll be back for that. It looks like he is about to start his flyer. This car is a gorgeous orange and black livery. As soon as they can cut to that, we'll go ahead and watch this car go around. Now, you got to watch 2 cars go around, Joey. This is going to be your chance to commentate what I would say probably one of the more extreme vehicles here to lay a lap. Project Import's Unlimited S2000. Take it away.
And up and over turn 1, we saw that little puff of smoke, but I think it was just actually the flat bottom of the floor or the splitter scraping the ground on the compression. And now we head into the S section here. You're going to really use the downforce of those aero bits through turn number 5, the left-hander. 6 here is a long right-hander. You really got to manage the front end, not overdrive it on exit, because turn 7, the left comes up rather quickly. It's easy to overshoot. We were riding on board with the Cadillac earlier as you come up through 8 and 9. This is over the crest, completely blind as you come up over the hill. Now through turn 11, the very fast downhill left-hander, but focus. Down here, you got to hit the brake marker, and once again, we're seeing a little bit more scraping coming out of that S2000. I don't know if it's out of the exhaust or if it's out of the bottom, hitting the pavement on the ground there, but rocket down the back straightaway here, up through all of the gears. Hopefully everything's running healthy, and spot your brake marker here for turn number 12. This is the fastest you're going to be going all lap long, so brake marker comes up quick. Stand on it for all that you can. Really put the pedal pressure in there, slow it way down, and now we come up to 13, 14, the 2 slow right-handers, maybe even up a quick gear before you got to get slow again through 15 and 16. These are some of the most annoying turns on COTA. You just feel like you're crawling through here, and then once again you stand on the gas, but you got to manage the front end through 17 and 18. This triple apex right-hander. The track starts to fall away as you come out on exit there, really accelerate through, and turn 19 comes up rather quick, and you see the S2000 get in way too deep there into turn 19, something very common. Then turn 20, the final turn on this circuit, gets it slowed down nice and tidy through there, so puts the power down. We'll go ahead and put down a lap time on the board here, 2:17.91 to start the session.
That's a killer lap time. And you know what, Joey? That was fantastic to listen to. That's going to be my ASMR for tonight, listening to you just go ahead and commentate these hot laps. It is great to see it out there. And Kyle McHugh of the 220.994. Now, for those of you wondering, if I'm not mistaken, this Project Import S2000 still isn't on full boost. They're mid-boost, if I'm not mistaken. You know what? One of their team leaders right here is in my office. He just told me he did a 217 on low boost. This is the lowest setting the car has. So this is just Brett wheeling and dealing this car in a 217 912 in his first lap of competition, what I like to call his first lap of anger. Really impressive. Where do you stand with that one, Mark?
Yeah, I'm really impressed by the fact that it is on low boost. It's definitely something that they're going to be able to improve upon, and we're going to be able to see how that goes throughout the weekend. So I'm going to talk a little bit about Kyle McHugh. So previously he ran a 2-minute 22-second lap, so he's already improved that by 2 seconds. Now with that said, he is projecting a 2-minute 15-second lap. That is going to be a lot of gains that he's going to have to make in a 5 seconds, but that was just his first lap. We might see some of this cold weather aspect where they're going to get more gains as they get to their second or third hot lap, as those tires get up to temperature and they get the cars settled with the temperatures on this track.
No, I agree 100%, Mark. Truth be told, it's going to be a complete evolution through the weekend. What we see in racing that we watch, be it Formula One, be it anything or IMSA, you're watching progression through the weekend, right? You're watching practice 1, practice 2, qualifying, race. Well, we all pure qualifying series, right? So you're going to be watching progression session to session. And for the most part, in our history, the second session is the fastest because we like to call that the money session. As long as the air is still crisp, there's heat in the track, rubber down, that's what you're going to be seeing. But the beautiful thing about Time Attack is you're going to see people setting fast laps in every single session of every single run group, because not only is the track progressing, the drivers are progressing.
Oh, absolutely. And these guys are going to be progressing a lot throughout the weekend. So just to kind of give you some more background information on Mr. Kyle McHugh. So this car, a lot of horsepower, guys. You're talking about an EFR 9280 on this car. He's basically putting probably down about 900 horsepower. Now, I assume he's not putting that down in this session here because he's just building up to that. But he's also got a bunch of different upgrades on this car, including an AMS cooling package with meth injection to be able to cool the car down. As we talked earlier about him, he was having some struggles with heat management. So today and tomorrow is going to be a definite huge advantage.
No, I agree 100%. And you know what? It does look like as the laps go on, Brett Dickey is still the fastest, but we are really starting to see these lap times lay out. The best part about this is we do have a lot of good cars on track. So we got cars like Mr. Wong, Mr. Huang, Mr. Farah, Mr. Louder. That's a Camaro right there, a 219 773. Still a manually shifted Camaro. That's a LT4 car. It's a CL1. Ported blower, but nothing too serious. Like Joey was talking about earlier, new cars come with new technology, and there's pros and cons to that. The benefit of him being in a 6th-gen Camaro, he gets to just go out there and blast a car that already had 650 and probably makes 9 now, as opposed to Brett Dickey in the S2000, where that car was a balance car. Anyone who knows S2000s knows they're that Toge monster, right? Very balanced, very low power, very response. To take that car and make big power and go around tracks like this is a big difference.
I think it's one of the coolest parts about Global Time Attack is we keep comparing it to racing, whether it's IMSA or World Challenge or F1 or whatever, and I just love the variety. Call it the diversity of manufacturers, the diversity of cars that are out there on the racetrack. We don't just have race cars. We've got front-wheel drive cars. We've got all-wheel drive cars. We've got rear drive cars. We've got cars with engines in the back, in the middle, and in the front. So it doesn't matter what vehicle it is, there is a spot for it out here in GTA.
No, I agree. And Gary Wong here in his Elite Performance BMW Supra, he was really expecting to do a 220. He thought he wasn't really going to get past 220. He's got 10 years of HPDE. He actually took second place at GTA Finals in 2022. That'd be in Buttonwillow, California 2 years ago. It's a full bolt-on car running E85, so we're not talking 1,000,000 horsepower like these other Supras. And for him to just go out there and really put together a 218.775, very impressive. And as I'm talking about it, we have Mr. Kyle McHugh with a 218.695.
Yeah, he just keeps chipping away at it. He's going to be doing that, I think, all afternoon. So again, he's just a very well-built car. He comes from the PhD Performance aspect where they're building and growing, and obviously they get to inherit some of that experience from Jackie Ding and those guys there.
No, I agree. And the biggest thing is, and we harp on this a lot, and one day I'm going to stop talking about this, Joey and I were talking about old versus new. New cars have their own negatives, right? They need to be developed. But the super community had Jackie Ding. Jackie Ding had the most developed car on the planet. Because of him, companies like AMS and every other company out there that works on these cars had a 5-year head start. Absolutely. Because one person was willing to go through the hell. We watched Jackie go through a car that wouldn't do a lap because it would shut off, would have overheating issues. He went through all of it and he never put his head down. He just said, we're going to get it figured out. And that's what happened. And now every super out here literally has him to thank for it. And what does he do? He moves on to a better BMW.
Yeah, he moved himself onto that BMW and passed all of that knowledge down to his teammates, down to the super community, and allowing them to show up in force. There is a lot of Supras out there, and they are all coming hard.
I agree. And it does look like we have Jeremy Lauder sitting here in fourth place at a 219.773, followed by Mr. Huang. I believe Mr. Farah, that's going to be Sean Farah in his SPL Parts Porsche GT3. He's out here with a 226.77. I really like this session. I'm going to forget about the bottom 2 or 3 because I know they're having some oddities. But Joey, looking at this, wouldn't you consider this a pretty close session from fastest to slowest? We're talking 217 to 223 between 15 cars.
And when we look at that gap, yeah, that's about 5 seconds or so between the entire run group, and that is good to see. That means everybody is similar on pace out there. So not only are the drivers not tripping over each other, but I also like to think it sometimes is a carrot out in front of some of these drivers. Now, the next driver, the next car might be 3 or 4 turns up the road, but it is still a reference point. And if you're catching that car in front of you, that just gives you more incentive. Hey, I'm going faster, I can keep doing this. It's still that reference point where everybody is so similar, you know if you're going faster than somebody or not.
No, 100%. And as we can see here on this broadcast, you know this as well as all of us, especially in the IMSA world, etc. This track gives you so much runoff that you are almost baited into going 4 off to go faster here. I think that's probably one of the hardest parts because anyone that's never been here to Circuit of the Americas, the race control room is incredible. They have a wall of TV screens. Every corner, every inch, everything you could look at, they can see. So those small areas where you think you can maybe carry a little bit of extra speed, try to go a little bit faster through this corner, you better make sure you keep at least one wheel on the tarmac because these guys will disqualify your laps so fast.
I can talk about technical bits on the racetrack all day long, and we will, as this checkered flag is out right now for this run group. And yes, it's an incredibly tough racetrack. I said mentally, it's one of the most challenging racetracks in North America. You're talking about the width, and not only on the exit, you're talking about all that extra runoff, right? That's appealing to a driver on the exit, but even going into these corners, if we continue with this Porsche here all the way down into turn number 12, you'll see the entry on these turns really widen out. And all that does is the drivers, their eyes go towards the apex, and all of a sudden you start pinching it down towards that apex way too early. And that's exactly what you don't want to do. So not only do you have all that exit runoff, you also have the entry widening, and it is just so inviting to a driver, but it is exactly what you don't want to do when it comes to the lap time. And another danger part about this circuit out here, if you clip those apexes, see that giant orange curb on the inside of that apex right there? Those things are huge, and if you run over it with a corner, trust me, you can knock that corner out of alignment. You can do a lot of damage to the cars, so you have to be careful not to turn in too early, have to be careful not to turn in too much on the apex, otherwise you could potentially damage the car. And like Cuban, you were saying, You got to make sure not to drive it all the way across those rumble curves on the driver exit. That can play havoc with the pad knockback on the brake system.
Agreed 100%. And you know what? We are blessed. We are not set up here with the sausage curbs, the big ones. You know, the ones that they bolt on for Formula One and all that? We only have the ones that are already there, which, look, that sounds like, oh, it's not so bad. Trust me, you run over that orange curb on the inside, you're going to regret the rest of your day. There's nothing positive about that. But you did nail it. And this shot shows you how beautiful COTA really is. Look at this landscape. These drivers are not only driving on probably one of the most premier, if not the most premier track in North America. They're doing it with a huge fan base, with huge coverage, but we also get to just look at how beautiful it is out here in Austin, Texas. Look at that landscape out. Look at the city. The overcast is gone. The sky is blue. I don't think it gets better than a Saturday time attack race here in Austin, Texas at Circuit of the Americas.
You don't even have to be a motorsport fan in order to see Circuit of the Americas. Even if you just fly into Austin, Texas, now it depends on which way the wind is and which runway you're landing on, but it usually flies right over the racetrack. So as long as you are on the proper side of the airplane, you can look out the window and see this gorgeous facility. And not only that, you were saying it's pretty much right next to downtown in Austin. It only takes about 15 to 20 minutes to go from that tower that you see right in the middle of your screen to hop in the rental car to get down to 6th Street in downtown Austin to have some fun.
Exactly.
No, absolutely. And anyone who's been sitting here at the track, during practice, I'm sitting on the paddock because we all wear many hats. You know, we're checking cars, etc. And I look up and I see a plane. You almost feel like you can touch it. So if you've ever been here or if you've flown over it like Joey was letting us know, huge. You look out the window, you could actually see these corners. If you know the track, you could name the corners out of an airplane.
It literally is the aerial view, and at the altitude that you're either going into or out of the Austin airport, it's like you said, right there at your fingertips. You can take out your phone and take a picture and pretty much analyze the track map as we go along.
So this is where I can be in focus.
It does look like we have Group 1 going out for their first session of the day. We are going to see if we can follow Cole Powelson in the Life Motorsport GTR. For those of you that have been following us from year one or just new to us, Cole and Life Motorsports has been a supporter of Time Attack in the United States since the day they were created. Now, Cole is a fan of U.S. Time Attack all the way back to the Sierra Evo days. Mark and I are both California natives. He's still silly and lives there, but Mark and I are both California natives. Anyone who knows Time Attack in the United States knows that it started because of Super Street Magazine, right?
Absolutely.
All these Japanese cars coming, racing at the inaugural original Super Lap Battle there at Buttonwillow Raceway. I used to leave high school. I literally skipped high school to go see these cars. And Cole's talking about the Sierra Evo, seeing it out there, beating the Cyber Evo, beating up Nob Taniguchi, which he's done himself. You know, Tarzan Yamada, these crazy drivers. And to see someone who has been there since the beginning still have so much excitement for it just really makes me love everything we do. People wonder why you and I do this, why we travel the States, why we take time off from work. It's a lot of stress because you and I are going to fly home. You're going to drive home. I'm going to fly home. We got to go straight into work.
Yep.
But we're going to go in so happy. Joey probably has a very similar story with his IMSA racing, with all the commentating he does. This is a passion and a love thing. We don't do this because we're going to be rich, I tell you that.
Ain't that the truth? Yeah, the passion that the Life guys show, that Cole Powelson shows, is just so impressive. Every time I talk to him, it actually invigorates me even more about Time Attack. It's just so awesome. It was amazing to see them go all the way to Australia to go to World Time Attack with this car multiple times. They just continue to improve and continue to grow. And it's just one of those things that I love to see from these guys. Look at all these beautiful, unlimited, and just fast Time Attack cars.
Well, and I'm going to jump in here. You guys were talking about the old days, and you're making me feel really old over here, guys. So I remember, I think it was 2006, you had mentioned Super Street Magazine and all these super lap battles and time attack competitions going on. I had built a Subaru STI way back in the day, and got the fortunate opportunity to take it down to, at that time, I believe it was Horse Thief Mile at the Willow Springs complex. Got to participate in American Toge 2 by Best Motoring down there. So that was nearly 20 years ago at this point.
So I got you then. So the original ones were like 2003, 2004, because I was still in high school. I'll age myself for you, Joey. I'm 36 years old. My beard says I'm 50.
I got a year on you, don't worry.
But absolutely. So that's what it was. And it's funny you said Horse Thief Mile, because that is, number one, that is where Mark Yeager lives, right? Mark is, I believe, sleeps in the paddock at Willow Springs.
I have a bunk there.
But he's also there every week. He is a local to Willow Springs. He's a member. I don't even think he has to be a member. He pulls up and the people just know him by name. But you driving a Horse Thief, that is literally the epitome of the toge track, right? You can't carry any speed there. It's good for drifters and it's good for weight transfer, and that's it.
Yeah, it's such an interesting and awesome track. I will say I definitely love driving my Miata there.
Whoop, we got life.
More. Ooh, there we go.
We got life. Joey, take it away from me. This car is going to be one of the fastest, cleanest laps you see. Life Motorsports doing their lap here at Circuit of the Americas.
This is a monster GTR coming through the S's here. So this is that long left-hander of turn number 5, and we are going to really see the aerodynamic effect on full display. Not only that, but look at the grip out of the tires on this all-wheel drive machine. So now we come up over turn number 9. This is going to be tricky here to put the power down, keep the yaw angle down, and then we go down the hill here. Make sure to hit your brake marker going into turn number 11 with how much speed this GTR is carrying. That is incredibly important, and actually just a little bit wide there on entry, but as long as he is able to hook it up on the exit, I would love to know how fast this thing is going down this back straightaway. I can only assume about 175, maybe even 180 miles an hour at this point. Wouldn't be surprised to see it maybe even a little bit faster, and that means the brakes have got to be just as big as those turbos to slow this thing down. Now comes this incredibly tedious slow section around the first right-hander of 16. Keep it around 15 right here, and then back on the brakes. Slow the thing down and just have to wait on the front end forever. Looks like the front tires are hooked up nice on this GTR. Accelerate up through 17. The track starts to fall away here through the right-hander of 18. And don't overshoot 19 like we saw earlier. Get on the brakes. Looks like he gets it slowed down nicely, and he keeps it all the way on the track here and through the final turn, turn number 20. You've done a nice lap so far. Just put it together. Put the foot down on the exit. Let's see what it throws down. This is going to be a 202.86 to start it out.
Woo! 202.866. So, Joey, I know that you've been doing a lot of commentating. I wanted to throw you into that because watching this car, which was a street car in its life, lay down lap times like that is just incredible. Mark, take it away.
Okay, guys, I think we got a new unlimited class record. That is the record, guys. 202.866. This is something to get excited about. I know I am very excited about it. They just busted the Ferris record of a 203.850. They definitely just bested their best lap time by over 2 seconds. I'm just astonished by this. This is the first session of the day, guys. This is something we absolutely need to be excited about. Oh, my God.
I agree. And Cole and the team have always been through some turmoil here, breaking drive shafts. They won. They took the unlimited all-wheel drive record, and they broke the drive shaft on the final corner. They literally putted across the line and took the record. So we knew what this thing had. But to do a 202.866 on the first lap of the first session, my goodness, they are laying it down. Eric Fleming has his car back together. This is a 209.161. This is a beautiful, naturally aspirated, unlimited class Corvette. They were having big issues in practice. I believe they blew the diff up.
Absolutely.
So for them to get that back together is great. It looks like we have Gabe Zamora at a 218.436 and fan favorite Thomas Smith at a 219.981 with his very plain 05. Or is that 06? Is that a Hawkeye?
It is not a Hawkeye. It's a
okay,
Lava.
yeah, but it's a beautiful one. 05 STI. Eric Sutton in his unlimited class Porsche at a 220.181. For those of you watching who are fans of Eric, he does have a limited class car, but he has suspension that's not legal in class, right? It's an electronic suspension. It has electronic controllers. It's something that's semi-factory on other cars, but we don't allow retrofits like that. So we'll see him again, probably running some regular shocks at Road Atlanta. Jackie Ding at a 220-734 in his brand new BMW. This is his new development car. Beautiful car out there. But once again, guys, Cole Powelson, Life Motorsports, that entire team, 202-866. I bet you when he comes into the pits, his whole team is going to be excited.
As we were watching the 777, I just wanted to jump in here. So this is Gabe Zamora, and I actually recognize this name not from user experience, but I do a ton of work with sim racing and iRacing, and I know that Gabe Zamora participates in some Porsche owners clubs and PCA events on iRacing, so I'm very familiar with this name and commenting on this black Dundon Motorsports Porsche, albeit more on the virtual side and now here in real world.
No, and Gabe Zamora has been competing with us for quite some time. He's a great guy right now. So the biggest thing is, I think if we can catch Jackie Ding in his number 687 BMW, I think he just finished a lap. He did say he was going to try to do 2 or 3 every session. This is a beautiful baby powder blue BMW. For those of you that know Jackie Ding, you know him because of his A90 Supra. This vehicle has the same motor, but it has 2 mechanical fuel pumps. It just has more capability. So he's ready to leave street class. He's joined limited class. He says this car is about 300 to 350 pounds heavier. It's not making the power the A90 is, but the car is super fun to drive and very, very stable. It's something that he says he can get a lot of work done in. This is, again, speaking of E46 versus E90 versus brand new BMW, Jackie lives his life as someone who wants to be at the forefront of development. So I think if he has a couple seasons with this, we're going to see this car just be out there and probably more of them on track.
I mean, I'm pretty impressed. He was really looking at doing a 218 at best, and the guy's already at a 219.4. So with that said, he absolutely has. I think he underestimated himself. I think he's definitely going to continue to push this car, and I think he brought enough tires to make sure that he can really push this car. Maybe 217, maybe 216.
Jackie's always underestimated times. It's kind of what he does. He has said, maybe I have this in it, and then he slays it later. So anything he says to me, I take as BS anyways. So if he says he's be lucky to do a 218, let's see a 215 out of this thing, you know?
Oh, man. He is running a set of 305 squared on some 19 by 11s. So he does have a lot of grip in this car. I assume he's running some Nankangs on this bad boy, which are definitely a good tire to put down some good lap times.
Well, yeah, and now that we've had a good full run group of cars here, is it pretty shocking, Joey? I know this is your first true time attack event. I wanted you to commentate Cole Powelson in the Live GTR. What is it like seeing a street car being able to really just put it down like that? Watching Cole's car is like watching a spaceship around the track.
Totally. It's really neat to see these types of cars come out there, and I think this is kind of the heart and soul of Time Attack, is really encouraging innovation, if you will, encouraging the drivers to not only push themselves, but push their machines, constantly better their machines to try to figure out how to shave those lap times. And yeah, I think the GTR was a great example. We've also got some other monster Corvettes, Camaros, Mustangs out there as well, Supras, NSXs. So I think that GTR that we had as an example and how fast it was is just kind of the tip of the iceberg of really all of the competitors that are out there.
Well, and if you're lucky, we did have Ferris Kartumi sign up last minute. For anyone that knows Ferris, he went to World Time Attack, then he took his car to Scuba, he went on a world tour, right? He has his second chassis that was being built in the States. He was the record holder up until about 7 minutes ago. So if he shows up with his second car in any way sorted, you're going to get to watch some even more excitement out there. Joey's going to get to commentate it for the first time. Anyone who's ever commentated Ferris knows that this man is balls to the wall 24/7. So it's super exciting to watch. Currently, Cole Powelson with a 202-866. He is absolutely leading this entire series right now. We have Mr. Fleming with a 209.161. It's a 209 is impressive. That means they have this car back together. Gabe Zamora at a 215.994. Jackie Ding at a 219.485. And I believe that's George Zhao at a 219.752. And then Thomas Smith in street class right behind him at a 219.981.
Impressive lap times for sure, and I was still loving just how close that one run group was when we had about 25 cars on the track, just non-stop action going on. And I know that when I'm
very
at the
impressive. It is very impressive to be able to see that.
Yeah, and just when you're there as a fan, it doesn't matter if you're walking around in the paddock checking out the cars or if you're sitting in the grandstands, you hear the motors and the variety of different types of sounds that you get. I love being at the racetrack.
No, I agree 100%. And what you see right now is the gridding up of GLTC. They're going to be going to their first, I don't know if it's qualifying or race. I do apologize. I had the schedule in front of me, and like every great person, I put it away like a silly man. This is going to be GLTC's qualifying, my guys. We do still have a few cars on track. I bet you we have Jackie out there. He's probably doing a cool off. It does look like most of these are going to be coming in. For anybody that knows Time Attack knows that when you're at the pointy end of the stick, you can't really do lap after lap. This is the biggest difference between, say, qualifying for an IMSA race and doing a Time Attack. Cole's car, it literally can't do 2 laps. It doesn't have the fuel for it. Most of these cars at the highest end of the spectrum, their alignments are very, very aggressive. Mark can tell you he had to make the jump to Unlimited because of a rule change. Every time someone gets mad at me because rules change, I just tell them to talk to Mark. Mark built the epitome of the perfect limited class car. I'm talking to the 9s, and then we banned flat bottoms.
It happens, guys, and at the end of the day, you have to adapt and readjust. And all we did was said, well, we're not abandoning our overall aero philosophy. So we said we're just going to go to Unlimited, and that's what some of these guys have to do. Things change, you have to move on. I really want to quickly talk about Eric Fleming. I'm just very impressed. He had that rear diff issue yesterday, really cut out his ability to get any practice, and he was still able to go out and do a 209. His best lap time before this was a 212 back when he was in limited class. He did end up building this car for Unlimited based off the construct of he just didn't read the rules well enough realistically, so he put in a paddle shift setup into that car and just he built it around that with his new wiring harness. Didn't realize that rule was in there and he was going to be bumped to Unlimited class, and you know what he did? Adapted, overcame. Now he's pushing Unlimited class and going to go push laps.
And you know what? It's a 900 horsepower tall block LS naturally aspirated.
The naturally aspirated part.
It's not like it's going to have issues keeping up with everyone else. So it is going to be teething issues, though. The car is new. The car itself is not new, but the setup is new. But Eric's an amazing driver. He is a fan favorite. Everywhere he goes, he's someone that people want to see. The Cole Palsons, the Eric Flemings, the Ferris Kartumis. This whole paddock is full of fan favorites. But you know what I love about it? Every time we have an event, there are new fan favorites. I have people asking about drivers they've never seen before. And you know what? With the lap times we're seeing right now, I think we're going to have a few new fan favorites at the end of this event.
Oh, absolutely.
That right there is going to be the checkered flag. This is going to be the end of the first session of Super Lap Battle USA. I think to wrap it up, biggest thing to see is we have seen some incredible lap times on the first session of the day. I'm going to go ahead and shoot this over to Joey. Joey, you let us know how this first session felt for you, and then we'll close it up.
I loved it. It was a cool air temperature session, and as we get to know each other, you guys are going to know I love data. So I believe it was about 45, 46 degrees ambient temperature when we started that session. I don't know what the track temperature was, but we'll just have to keep an eye on it throughout the day, especially like you guys were saying, you know, the second session is usually where people have knocked the rust off and really go and lay it down. But I'm just curious to see the development throughout today because it seems like we've already had kind of some serious laps laid down.
No, absolutely. And With that being said, we're going to see some faster lap times. We'll be back at 10:25 a.m. with Super Lap Battle Group 5. We're about to jump to GLTC qualifying. You're about to hear from their commentators. If you want people who are knowledgeable, smart, funny, and we got some cute ones out here, let me tell you right now, these are the guys that you need to listen to. So GLTC qualifying about to go live. We'll be back for Time Attack at 10:25.
Sorry, say that again?
Trying. It's chilling, man.
Yeah, he doesn't have a radio. Correct. He's just, I got it.
Green flag flies and we're racing in Grid Life Touring Cup. Side by side. Down the inside, 3 wide into 4. Huge mess. Look at them. 5 cars on top of each other under a blanket. You can't see these 2 cars race against each other anywhere else.
Grid Life Touring Cup action at its best, folks. How do you like this?
For the last 5 years, Grid Life has kicked off its season in conjunction here at Circuit of the Americas in conjunction with Super Lap Battle with the Touring Cup Series. This is a single-class wheel-to-wheel sprint racing series, and we've got lots of new faces from new places, as well as a handful of returning veterans like Luke McGrew and James Houghton. The championship last year came down to the wire for second place between those two, following Jeremy Swenson, who will not be repeating his run for a championship in 2024. Hi everybody, I'm Kyle Heyer, joined by Matt Waldbaum, a fellow Austinite down here. He's relatively new to the area, just bought a house a couple of weeks ago, and Matt, welcome. This used to be a global track for you, as it is for everybody else, but this is now your local track.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty fantastic to have a Formula One track in your backyard. It's pretty cool to be down here. This was actually my first wheel-to-wheel race about 2 years ago. So it's been pretty cool to come out. It's nice to make a 30-minute drive. It's been nice.
Yeah, so certainly this is going to be an interesting session. This is our qualifying session, which sets up our grid for the first of 4 races here this weekend, Matt. And as you know, the sprint racing format here in Grid Life Touring Cup is very, very intense. Typically, we've got field sizes of anywhere from 25 to 50 cars this weekend, just over 20, so it's a little bit easier for some of the new drivers, but we have a handful of them. What do they have to learn in this qualifying session? Because it's go time. We only had 1 practice session to get sorted.
Yeah, I mean, to some extent, this is also a practice session. You're out there still learning the track, especially if you haven't been here before. There's been rule changes, so the cars are going to be a little bit different. Maybe they're a little heavier, maybe they have a little bit less tire underneath them, and so you're still trying to figure out the car. But it is important to get a good qualifying session, as that's going to set you up for each of the races that kind of builds on itself throughout an entire race.
Yeah, so the first race is set by this qualifying order. Race number 2 will be set by lap time here in race number 1 later this afternoon. Tomorrow morning, we race at basically the break of dawn, right after the change of daylight savings time, and we do a standing start Formula 1 style on the front straightaway with the lights and everything. And so not only is your lap time in this session important, but the lap time in the race later today is very important. So yes, we will be racing, but there is some time attack involved in this as well.
And the cars are coming around, getting ready to take the green and take some of their first laps. It is a bit colder out there today. I think we saw someone spin actually in turn 1 coming out of the pits trying to warm their tires. So it may be a lap or two before these cars really get up to speed with the temps outside.
Yeah, and the other thing is that in the past we've raced on slick racing tires, and now we're on 200 treadwear street tires. So that changes the dynamics of how you're going to warm up your tires. There's a number of different tire selections that you can choose as well, Matt. So you see drivers slipping and sliding. That's Lawson Crane, who's another local driver who competed with us for the first and only time last year here at Circuit of the Americas. So there is probably some inherent track knowledge that some of these drivers will have that others do not. For some, this is their first time here at COTA, and there's a lot of corners and a lot to learn. It's big, it's wide, there's not a lot in the name of walls very close to the racetrack, but it is a technical racetrack in many places.
Yeah, I mean, it's super technical, especially through the S's. You need to make sure that you're carrying a lot of speed. The rhythm through there is not a normal cadence. You're having to pay attention to where you're placing the car through there to make sure you're carrying as much speed as possible and brake as little as possible. You probably see about the most of the field now taking the green flag.
So as cars work their way through the S's here at Circuit of the Americas, we mentioned 20 corners around here, about 3.5 miles, and it is technical in many places, Matt, but this is one of the more technical sections, I would say, because you're at such a high speed through here. Average speeds very, very high through most of this lap, especially this first sector that leads you through these high-speed S's. Take me through the biggest challenge for you on this racetrack. You're not racing here this year, but you did in previous years. What's the biggest challenge for you?
I mean, some of these biggest challenges are some of these hairpins. I think they're super inviting for you to really dive it way in on the brakes and try to gain a bunch of speed, but the actual thing you need to pay attention to is the exit, especially leading onto that long back straightaway. It's such a long run that if you lose 1 or 2 mile an hour out of one of those turns, you're going to be losing it all the way down the back straightaway, which can really hurt. And then it's also true through the stadium section. They're pretty tight corners, and these lower horsepower cars, you're going to need to really make sure you're rolling a lot of speed out of those exits.
Yeah, see James Houghton in that K-tuned Acura TSX closing in on Gary Wimble. The beauty of GLTC is you can kind of build the weapon that you want to build, and in many ways. The rules allow you to add complexity to your build at the expense of weight. So how that is essentially calculated is if you're adding components like a sequential transmission or aero components or things like that, you're adding percentage weight to your base weight, which is a 12.5 power to weight calculation. There were some changes to that in the off-season, Matt, mostly addressing different engine sizes and types. And if you watched GLTC last year, we saw a lot of the bigger, heavier cars up at the front of the field. They qualify really well, they race very well, but there is always the pursuit of parity. We're hoping that some of these changes are going to make that a little bit more attainable this season for some of those smaller cars. But I think at this racetrack, getting off the corner and getting down the straightaway, especially from turns 11 to 12, is probably the most important area.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's always great to see the organizers working on trying to find that parity, and they're trying different things, they're being creative, they're willing to make mid-season changes to try to find that parity. So it's really great. As we're starting to see times pop up on the board, looks like Houghton's going to take the initial pull as we're coming around the first lap. So you have a car stalled here on the front straightaway. We got the yellow flag waving, but hopefully we can get that car moved, or at least it's in a safe enough spot we might be able to continue.
Yeah, that is Ernestus Pazelis, who is running his first ever Grid Life Touring Cup event in GLTC, but he is a long-time Grid Life Time Attack competitor as well. He's actually run this car in Time Attack a number of times. It's got a sequential trans in it as well, so it's a K-powered S2000. Something is not powering the K-powered S2000 at the moment, so he's sitting there right on the end of the front straightaway. But lap times, as you mentioned, until we have a leaderboard, James Houghton at the top of the board, 2:28.138. Not a bad lap, Matt. We've seen in the 27s a couple of years ago, but that was with slick racing tires. And at the top, James Houghton, Luke McGrew. It's just amazing how at the tail end of last year, they were 1 point separated as far as the championship is concerned. And right now, it's 0.2 of a second between them on the racetrack.
Yeah, I mean, this is pretty impressive. I think a little bit of time from this morning. I think Luke actually this morning was down in the 27s, but we'll see if if he can get back down there here in this qualifying session. I think Lawson Crane has also picked up a good bit of time to be kind of in that fight. And then there's a little bit of gap back to Matan, Rosenberg, and Magnussen. I know Matan is actually struggling a little bit with not necessarily a new build, but he took that car entirely apart, kind of put everything back together, new suspension underneath it. So he's playing with a lot of knobs, trying to get that car dialed back in.
Yeah, and we mentioned the new competitors, new faces from new places. Eric Magnussen, an 8-time NASA champion that has joined us here in GLTC this weekend. That's really exciting. Lots of the new drivers have plenty of experience in other series. Kelly Bryant is another one of those drivers. So I'm excited to see how that experience translates to GLTC, Matt, because we've heard from so many people that it's a different animal. This is a single class series. In so many grassroots road racing series, you've got multi-class racing. So on track, it's a bit more complicated as far as who you're racing, knowing where your competitors are. Here, everybody's racing each other. So, you've got that cleared up for you, but the competition level is so extreme.
Yeah, I mean, the competition level is very high. And there's something about the series and there being 40 cars out there that I think also attracts just very fast drivers. And you see people come in from other series and maybe get a little bit surprised when they first come out. Maybe they thought their car that wasn't maybe fully optimized to the rule could do pretty well, but like these cars are optimized 100% to the rules, and then the drivers are just really dialed in with those cars, which makes it hard to compete out here for coming out for your first time.
James Houghton passes the stricken Ernestus Pizzalis there on the straightaway. Right behind him was Matan Rosenberg, and that yellow Corvette has a pretty cool livery on it. It is based off of the 2009 Corvette Racing GT2 livery that was run in the American Le Mans Series, picked up a victory at Motorsport in that same year. Really cool homage to a great American racing team, and with the number of Corvettes we've got in the field, a lot of them were black. At least Matan has put some coloration on it this year, and I'm excited to see how he will do. He is a phenom, by the way. The year that car was run in ALMS competition, he was 5 years old. That was only 2009. He's younger than me, Matt.
No, Matan's a great guy, and if you ever get a chance to spend time with him in the paddock, you absolutely should. Constantly a smile on his face. And yeah, great to see Houghton and Luke finding a little bit of time. They're now 59 thousandths of a second apart as they continue to battle here. And it looks like we're able to continue the session with that S2000 getting pulled off the front straight.
Yeah, great work there by the recovery team to be able to do that while the track is still racing. There's the 330 of Eric Magnussen. Again, that's that driver I mentioned who's got a handful of championships already from other racing series, and makes a pass on Gary Wimble, who's a longtime GLTC competitor. And he's going to rocket up the straightaway in that gold BMW. Other new drivers that we should mention, and some that maybe aren't the newest off the line. James Cathers won a race at Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course last season and ended up finishing third on the weekend there. He's 6th place. Tony Marchev returns. He's 7th. Kyle Hale, another new driver, 8th place. So they're having a pretty good qualifying session here, Matt, and we're going to mix the field up a bit from, I think, what we were anticipating.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we're losing our S2000.
I think they might just roll him back in pit lane that way to keep him out of the racetrack, and that works, I suppose. So send him back down pit lane the way that he came out. Into the carousel, 16, 17, 18, Matt. This is a very, very fast multi-apex right-hander. How do you set a car up for GLTC? Is this just a flat corner for these cars?
For the most part, yes. I think some of the other cars that have taken the arrow off, so like you're thinking about a course like this where you're going to have a lot of straight line speed sections. The Corvette of Luke McGrew has taken the splitter and the wing off, so his car may dance around a little bit more through that multi-apex corner, where a car with a wing and a splitter maybe just through there flat out. Which makes it a really exciting corner when you get through it.
And Matan's car, that yellow Corvette that just went by the shot there, no, it's not missing the wing uprights. It's he just decided to pull that wing off to gain some straightaway speed here and maybe go with that low downforce setup. So giving that a go, James Houghton pulling over to the side. He seems pretty content with his lap, 2/10 shy of Luke McGrew, who's now done a 2:27.806. There's a look at Michael Hilo. He was involved with James Houghton in what was one of the most spectacular finishes in grid life history last season, where James had the left rear wheel come off on the last lap, leaving turn 11. And James drove that car around the racetrack on 3 wheels and drag raced this car, this 224 of Michael Hilo, to the checkered flag and beat him by thousandths of a second in a photo finish. It was unbelievable. It was so close that we had to go back to the video camera to find out who actually finished ahead of the other because the transponders disagreed.
It was a pretty funny series of events. I was actually behind James Houghton when it happened, coming up the back straightaway, and I queued up the radio to warn everyone behind me that there was a tire rolling, and I ended up missing a shift. So the person I was racing with actually lost out of position down the back straightaway. But looking at times here, I think we actually see Baton actually getting down into the 29. So whatever changes he made here between sessions are really starting to turn it up in terms of his pace, which is nice to see.
Yeah, and now you can see the leaderboard there. McGrew at the top with that 2:27.806, and then down the rest of the order, Hilo up to 8th place that lap around. We've got 21 drivers that have taken the racetrack. There's a few that will not make it out there. One of them is Matt Beck, who is a new competitor here this weekend with a Nissan 240 SX, which is a pretty unique car that we see a lot in grid life paddocks in the drift area, but not so much in wheel-to-wheel. Unfortunately, he had an engine go boom on him in practice, so he will not make it out there this weekend. That is a frustrating way to start a season.
Yeah, it's super frustrating. He's a local Austinite. I know him from the autocross community, and he's been really fighting with that car. I think they've actually gone through a couple of engines here in the last few weeks, really just trying to get it ready. They thought they had it together. He was excited. This was going to be his first wheel-to-wheel weekend, and unfortunately this is racing, and sometimes things just don't go your way. So he'll get it back together, and I think the next event he's planning on is Road America, so we'll see him there.
Yeah, about halfway through this qualifying session, so still plenty of time for drivers to put down laps. Other drivers we should take a note of is Julio Crispin jumps up to 12th place in his Nissan 350Z. Adam Wood, who hails from New Mexico, he has joined us at a whole bunch of grid life events. Usually has to drive halfway across the country or almost all the way across the country to make it. But this is probably his shortest tow of the year, actually, in his Subaru Impreza. One of the 2 all-wheel drive Subarus in this series. Matt, we don't see a lot of all-wheel drive. I don't think we've really seen it be advantageous in the way that you would think it would be, but if we get a rain race someday, I think the all-wheel drive cars are going to stand an advantage.
Absolutely, and it definitely is a unique animal here in GLTC. I think all these cars out here are based on a power to weight, so we have a dyno that sits here in the paddock that can test all these cars. The problem with the all-wheel drive cars is maybe they aren't able to be tested on that dyno, so we do a lot of compliance checks with AIM products to make sure that their straightaway speeds aren't in excess of maybe the other cars around them. But I think that the officiants do a really good job kind of maintaining that parity and paying attention to. But it would be cool to see some of these all-wheel drive cars. I think there were a few last year, but we didn't quite get them. Getting a little racy.
Lawson Crane getting out of the way for Tony Marchev, who is on a hot lap right now. He's up to 4th place in this number 17 S2000. And Tony has been probably one of the drivers that I've seen improve the most over the last season. All of a sudden, he's a top 5 driver week in, week out in this S2000. And swinging by Lawson Crane, who we mentioned before is a local, he's 3rd, and Marchev is 4th. So Marchev looking to bump himself up one more spot on Road 2 if he can do so. There's that 17 rocketing down towards turn 12.
And rocketing may be a pretty serious point. So he's added a fair bit of power to this car, especially for COTA. So he's on bigger tires, more power. It obviously means he has to carry a bit more weight as he misses the apex there just a little bit. But it's really good to see him up and mixing it up with these guys up here in the 28s.
Yeah, this is a section of the racetrack that's designed roughly after an area of the Hockenheim Ring in Germany, and it's extremely technical. And I love this section of the racetrack, Matt. I know it's not necessarily a driver's favorite, but when you come through here, you can get side by side so easily. There's so many over-under opportunities. So when race time comes, this is absolutely a place where you can move up a spot or 3 if you've got the weapon to do so.
Yeah, it's fantastic racing wheel to wheel. Maybe if you're driving this solo in a little bit lower horsepower car, digging out of some of those hairpins is a little bit less fun, but when you have 5 of your best buddies around you, it is quite the party.
Yeah, there's turn 19 and entering into turn 20. Now, race director Renee Hines gave some exception corners to track limits here this weekend, so you have to stay in the white lines everywhere except for turn 8 and turn 19, which is the penultimate corner here. That's generally the accepted racing line, and because we're racing with cars on track next to each other, a bit more allowance is given in those particular areas. So otherwise, that white line, that is your wall, effectively. You got to stay within that as Marchev works through turn 1, leaves a little on the table there at the exit. But that's an interesting corner, Matt, because it's such a tight turn, like turn 11, like turn 12. Is it worth it to drive to the line all the way out, or is there, especially in a racing context, is there a reason that you might want to keep it tighter to set up for the next?
Well, I mean, it really depends on the traffic that's going to be around you. I mean, if there's no one around you, you want to be able to carry as much momentum and really roll speed, especially with how tight it is. But once you start getting wheel-to-wheel in racing, there could be some defense you want to play to keep the car behind you, or you're trying to set up a pass for the car in front of you. But, I mean, some of these corners are so tight that the inside line sometimes is not optimal. especially going into turn one with all the cars stacking up with you, if you're with the whole field just as you take the green. The outside line often can be the place to be, as all the cars go up and park it on the apex and almost need to go to first gear with how slow they're going, and you can just roll around the outside and gain a bunch of positions.
Back to take another look at Marchev. We just had a look at Kelly Bryant as well, one of the new drivers with lots of wheel-to-wheel experience, but none yet here in Grid Life Touring Cup. There's Corey Mitchell, another relatively local driver that joined us for a few rounds last year, including at Watkins Glen. That was a long tow for Corey, but glad to see him back in this number 79 BMW as he heads up the straightaway. Currently trying to find his P18 now of 21 as he puts some laps in here prior to the end of qualifying. It seems like the top front runners have mostly cooled off and headed back to the paddock, but Tony Marchev is still getting after it.
Yeah, he's definitely the one who seems to be kind of hustling along, really trying to get more and more out of that car. We'll see what he can get done as the tires get hotter and hotter. Some of these street tires don't want to be out there for 5, 6, 7 laps, especially with how long these laps are. So we'll see if he can pick up pace or if the tires are just going to fall off on him.
Yeah, Lawson Crane on the far right of that shot is setting up as well for turn 15, that extremely tight turn just off camera to the right. And then under the bridge into the carousel, past the observation tower. I still haven't been to the top of that yet, and 5 years of coming here. Someday I'll get up there. Yeah, I'm not. And Crane works his way through the carousel, sets up for 19. He's got, I think that is Crispin ahead of him. And down the inside, that's a compromising line, unfortunately, for 19. That's tricky to make that move. So setting up for turn 20 and coming back to...
Looks like he's coming into the pits anyway, so either his line was compromised, he decided to bail on it, or he was coming in anyways.
Yeah, there's still a few minutes left in the session, but it doesn't seem like there's a lot of drivers still out there. A handful still putting laps in. Adam Wood in that number 207 at the bottom of the screen. But the paddock is getting a little busier. Matt, our races are short. Tell me about the fueling process here, because this is one of the very long tracks on the schedule. If, for say, we were to get a full course yellow and go a little long, how tight, how close are you going to cut it on fuel? Because you have to weigh your minimum weight on the scales post-race. So how do you navigate that at such a big track like this?
I mean, at least for our cars, when we're running them, we're generally filling them all the way up because we need them for ballast. And some cars, if you're running a little bit lighter on some of these corners, they're so high G that you'll actually fuel starve a little bit. But I think most of these guys out here aren't trying to cut it that close. They do want to build in that margin of safety, so they're safe on the scales, they're safe on the dyno. And it's just kind of a camaraderie thing here that no one's trying to be super cheaty or way too close to the rules. I say that as having it accidentally gone against me entirely unintentionally. I was very shocked. But I mean, I think generally people are trying to do the right thing here, which is it's great to see when people do kind of accidentally bust dyno or the scales. They're very surprised.
Yeah, and the other thing, to I guess keep in mind with the fuel situation here is that you might be burning more fuel than you're used to at some of the club tracks that will run for the rest of the season. We've got some other really big tracks like Road America that you'll probably burn a similar amount of fuel, but I'd imagine that you could fuel burn more here. So is that something that you think drivers would be testing or trying to understand their fuel burn at this track versus others on the calendar?
Oh, I mean, absolutely. There's so much of this lap that's open throttle that you're eating through fuel. You just have to be cognizant of it. If you aren't, I mean, it's not just the racing on the track. The car has to be prepared. You have to be mentally prepared for adding the right amount of weight throughout the weekend. So it's definitely something you have to pay attention to, especially if you want to be running here at the front, because those little mental errors can end up knocking back maybe 10 starting positions in the next race. So you don't want to have something like that happen, or even a DQ in a really bad example.
Checkered flag is out here for Grid Life Touring Cup qualifying, and Luke McGrew, it will be on pole as he was last year. 2:27.806 is the lap time that will top the board here. James Houghton will roll off on the front row alongside him, and their championship battle for second last year is going to immediately restart here in race 1 at COTA. This is going to be a lot of fun. Lawson Crane, Tony Marchev will be row 2, then Eric Magnuson and Matan Rosenberg in row number 3. Cathers, Hilo in row 4, Eric Jensen and Kyle Hale round out the rest of your top 10, and you can see the rest of the times on the board there. Kevin Bandy getting some laps in at the tail end of the session. So Matt, that was a lot of fun to watch and just kind of reevaluate where drivers are from the tail end of last year to the front end of this one. We have a long season with the most GLTC rounds we've ever had in a season on tap this year all over the country, from here at Circuit of the Americas all the way to Lime Rock Park in the east, all the way to Willow Springs and WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca out west. It's going to be a very long year, but our first look at GLTC racing will be this afternoon.
Yeah, I mean, really excited, and you talking through the schedule is getting me excited to get back in the car. I'll be back in the car in CMP, but it is really fun to be out here and back with all these folks. The big part is kind of hanging out in Paddock and being with everyone. But I think some of the people we'd expect to be at the front are, and we're seeing some other people kind of figure their cars out and figure out the rules. So.
Yeah, we'll sign off here momentarily and pass it back to the Super Lap Battle folks. Our next event is going to be racing, wheel-to-wheel, single-class action a little bit after 2:30 here this afternoon. And I cannot wait. 22 cars will be going for glory here at Circuit of the Americas. It's going to be a lot of fun, Matt, and we're just getting started on the weekend.
Yeah, absolutely.
As the checkered flag's out, we're still waiting for a few more cars to just finish up and head back to the paddock area. Hoping that Ernestus Pizelis, who was the one driver that didn't get a lap time, has something easy to fix. Didn't look like there was a lot of smoke or anything to really worry about, so he should be able to get that car repaired and ready to go. Also, don't forget tomorrow morning, the first thing, 8 a.m., we've got our standing start Formula One style race. We're going to start from a stop on the front straightaway, which is one of my favorite things to do all year, Matt. You got to do that last year. What was that like?
I mean, it's a pretty awesome experience, but it is also a little nerve-wracking. You're sitting there, you're not exactly sure when the lights are going to come on, so you just have to be sitting there ready. The nerves keep building and building. But once those lights come on, the revs come up, everything just kind of goes away, and you dump that clutch, and everyone starts bombing into turn one. It's a super cool experience. There's not really many other places in the world you get to have that type of experience and kind of do what the F1 drivers get to do. So it's really cool.
We've got 4 races on tap for you here this weekend. Thanks so much for watching GLTC qualifying. We've got up next some more time attack action. The Super Lap Battle boys will come back in here and bring you the rest of that for the day. Again, I think it's 2:40 is our first race on the weekend. We've got 1 race today, 3 races tomorrow. We'll see you there. Can't wait to watch racing here from COTA a little bit later today. Thanks so much.
Green flag flies, and we're racing in Grid Life Touring Cup. Side by side. Down the inside, 3 wide into 4. Huge mess. Look at them. 5 cars on top of each other under a blanket. You can't see these 2 cars race against each other anywhere else.
Grid Life Touring Cup action at its best, folks. How do you like this?
Send Mark out to the hot pits. Mark is going to just be your pit girl probably this whole session, since he has plenty to talk about with these drivers. And we're back here at Super Lap Battle USA for the following set of sessions. That was an exciting Grid Life Touring Cup qualifying session. I will say that this race every year brings out the best of all competitors, not just for us at Super Lap Battle, but also for Grid Life Touring Cup. Let's go ahead and throw up the standings so far of each run group where we stand. We haven't had any competitors not go out. It does sound like a few people have some drama. We'll get Mark out there at the hot pits to be able to talk to them to see what's going on. We got the Rafa Racing Club McLaren out there on their first hot lap. It looks like he has completed his warm-up, and he is sending it.
Well, that is going to be Rob Bell in that McLaren out there. Looks suspiciously very much like a GT3 car as it works its way through the S's. Believe on its first time lap and really starting to put it down and get those tires up to temperature, get everything up to speed.
Absolutely, and you know what? It's incredible to see these shop-built, home-built, hand-built time attack cars. We have Cole Powelson in the Life GTR, which of course looks like a spaceship, guys. When people look at this online, they go, well, how could that car be slower than, say, this McLaren? And Joey can attest to this. This McLaren is a factory-built race car. It was never built for anything requiring to be on a road, where Life Motorsports, all these other teams, they have taken street cars and turned them into race cars, which is truly the history, the sport, the heart, the soul of time attack. Taking something that you were driving on the street, a production-made vehicle, and making it as fast as you can around a track.
And I think that when we look at the biggest difference, it's the dollars, right? Not everybody has dollars like a factory or a manufacturer does, and the amount of engineering and development that goes into those purpose-built race cars is hundreds of millions of dollars, and most often than not, we do not have that type of cash flow going in. So you're right. I love what or I should say Global Time Attack is bringing us, and this McLaren setting down the first lap a 2:48 the first time around.
Man, getting closer and closer to that sub 2-minute mark. It's so great to see these cars showing what, like you said, a multi-million-dollar developed race car is. Sure, you could go buy one, probably going to cost you $500,000 or more, but what you're missing when you buy that car is that vehicle had millions upon millions of dollars, thousands upon thousands of man-hours to perfect the smallest little things. Where you have teams like Life Motorsports, Ferris Toomey, Eric Fleming, all the way down to the enthusiast class, Robert Ruschan, all of these guys, they bought a car that was developed to, sure, be fun on the street. The GTR is an incredible street car, but it was still developed to have airbags, radio, air conditioning, heated seats. Everything that they put the development into was an overall package, where with that McLaren, everything they put development into was, what can we do to get that extra thousandth out of this car?
A perfect example is what we've got on screen right here. This is one of these old Z cars that has been heavily modified out here to extract all of the performance that they can find. They're using the aerodynamic bits that they know are efficient, whether that's the splitter, widening the car out, there's big wings on the back end. Those are all modifications to really go out there and push the car further, push the driver further, and continue that invasion of just shaving that lap time and getting faster and faster every time you go to the track.
Absolutely. And that car right there, that is what you call true love. That is owned by a gentleman named Sean Bassett. He owns a team called Attacking the Clock Racing. They like to build out-of-the-box creations. This is a tube chassis 240 with a carbon body with an LS. It's a sequential car. They built it for Pikes Peak, and then they started time attacking in it, etc., etc. This car is built to what he loves, and that's what that class exists for those wondering. Max Effort's for somebody that wants to build something out of the box, something that comes from their soul. It's like anyone that played with Legos as a kid, right? You could have built this Lego Death Star, or you could buy this huge box of Legos and build whatever you want out of it. And Sean Bassett was absolutely the kid that threw instructions away and just built something that he really enjoyed.
And, you know, Cuban, I'm going to take that even one step further with current technology. It's like a video game, right? Think of Forza and what you can do nowadays from when you had an Xbox system and, oh my gosh, I really want to get that Mustang, and then you can go and tune it and put all of these parts on it, put whatever wheels on it and make it exactly yours. Well, this is kind of just like a grown-up's version of that. You have that dream, and now you actually get to put it into reality on the racetrack.
Absolutely, and it's awesome for people like him because he also uses this as a way of living, right? Attack on the Clock Racing, they have a shop, they do a whole bunch of stuff. You'll notice a lot of our competitors who were privateers turned it into what they do. Jackie Dean created PhD Racing, which is a shop he runs. You have Ulrich Zerka, who's driving Jesse Salinski's car. His father, who started UMS Tuning, this is why he did it. He was always a mechanic, worked at dealerships, and said, I want to do what I love, and I want to do it for a living. Some of these people don't have that ability, don't get me wrong, but the ones who maybe didn't have the financial capability to build race cars turned it into a financial positive.
It's a way from taking it from a hobby to a living, and it's always wonderful to see. And then you put those people inside the paddock that have so much knowledge that can really help other competitors out if they're struggling or if they have any sort of questions. It's exactly what coming out here and being part of GTA is all about, and the camaraderie behind it too.
Oh, I agree 100%. And also you get to see the biggest difference where you have Rob Bell at a 2-minute flat in a tin top car. It is a race car. Now these LMP3 cars, these Normas, you have these running a 203 and a 204. You know these cars well. You know multi-class racing. You're an IMSA man yourself. These Normas look like they would be the fastest cars here. It is a true aerodynamic machine, but they also are probably some of the lowest powered cars here.
I spent all of last year spotting for 2 of those LMP3 cars. Granted, it'd be the Dakeen chassis rather than the Norma chassis, but it's all the same spec rule set. And you're right, they're just kind of more limited based off of their power. You look at the car and it makes incredible grip. It's basically a go-kart with bodywork on it. So it's purpose-built out there, but they're only about 400 and 500 horsepower. Now, if you really wanted to go and make that thing super competitive in a class such as this, you could probably go and open up that motor quite a bit, but then you're dealing with having way too much power in such a small chassis, and that comes with a host of different problems.
Absolutely, and to take it out here and run it as it is, and be able to run against people like Mike Dussault and his beautiful Pikes Peak Camaro that makes 18 billion horsepower and honestly is probably one of the coolest looking cars here. I like to call things fan favorites, but if you've ever seen Mike Dussault's car, fans flock to it. We're a 60s Camaro, big aero, big front wing, big rear wing, big turbo, and it still has a basic, you know, small block engine. It's an LS based motor. Obviously it's punched to the moon. I believe it's a dark block, but this isn't some huge 597 cubic inch drag car. This is a car that was built to obviously make great power, but still have balance in its equation.
You gotta have the balance when we talk about an overall lap. And the other thing about this Camaro is just being a fan favorite. Look at how dang cool it is, right? The exhaust spitting out the fender out there, the huge turbo, the big old splitter and wing on the back end. It's kind of hard not to be a fan of something like that.
I agree 100%. And it's hard not to be a fan of these drivers. Luckily, we do have Mark Yeager out here in the hot pits, and I think he has snuck his way into Cole Powelson's garage. So in a few seconds, we should be able to hear about Cole and his record-setting lap. While they're setting that up, we're getting pretty much the same question for a lot of people about tires, so I would love to help explain that. These classes are required to run specific treadwear tires, or up to said treadwear. Obviously, unlimited class is allowed slicks, and they're allowed tire warmers. Limited class is allowed up to a 80 treadwear tire. They are not allowed tire warmers. Street class is a 200 treadwear class. They are not allowed tire warmers, and enthusiast is 220. With that being said, though, you're still allowed to shave the tires. You're allowed to heat cycle them. You can do whatever you feel is to your best advantage to lay down the fastest lap. Now, obviously, the lower class, they don't necessarily come with 30 sets of tires. So there's the pros and cons, right? I can come with a fresh set of tires that are sticker, and I can break them in over time. Or I can come with a sticker set of tires that I had heat cycled, shaved to be at the fastest they can be, but that means I'm only going to get X amount of laps out of them before all of the life is out of them. So as a driver, Joey, you let me know, which side are you taking? Are you taking the side that's going to give you everything up front but fall away at the end? Or are you going to try to work them in yourself?
I think it's all understanding the equipment that you have, right? So if you understand that you only have the tires and the car set up to last one lap, you have to mentally prepare yourself to do exactly that. Now, if you have some tires and the equipment to last multiple laps, maybe that's when you can go out there and kind of take it easy for the first lap or two, get warmed up, get into the kind of the swing of things, and then go after it. But I really think that it's all in the understanding of the equipment. And if you were to ask me as a driver, which is going to give me the most performance, that's the one that I'm going to want to have, especially in a format that it's the fastest car that wins out here.
You're correct. And it doesn't matter if you set the fastest lap on the first lap of the day or the last lap of the day. You could run one session, one lap, and win the whole event. And that's where it's difficult for some people, because this isn't about attrition. This isn't about you lasting longer than everyone else. This is about you having more mental fortitude. This is about you being able to push past the problems. You look at Rob Bell, and obviously he's in a factory race car, but you know he's running through his own issues. The car's setup may not be working perfectly. He has his own things to work through. Then you have, say, Mark Austin or Jensen Little. He's in that LMP car with a 204 960. Well, Jensen has done a lot of laps in that car, but I know he's also gone faster than this, so he's also running into his own issues, whether it be setup, whether it be temperature. Maybe the last time he tested the car, it was 18 degrees hotter, and the ambient temp wasn't in the 50s. So it's always a fight. It's a battle. Nobody has unlimited tires. Anyone who's ever bought tires to track, quality tires run way more money than we would like to talk about. So when a fan has a great question, by the way, wondering about the tires, it comes down to the team. What do you plan on doing? The higher end time attack teams are only going to run 1 or 2 laps a session anyways, but a lot of times the lower class guys will do 2 laps, bring it in, and maybe do another 1 or 2. So when it comes down to what tires they run, I think you're totally right, Joey. It really comes down to how confident the driver is in the car, the setup, etc. Because you don't want to end your session early, but at the same time, you don't want to have a car that's not optimal and run out of tires by the time you figured it out.
When we talk about these higher tuned cars, if you will, the race cars and whatnot, you know that they are very tire sensitive when it comes to tire life. You know, not just the brand or the spec tire that you're running. And I don't know if they're running stickers or if they're running scrubs or if they're just running pure practice tires out there. So the lap times that are shown on the board, if you throw a set of stickers on, you can go out there and light the timing charts on fire, but how long does it stay up there and who all is driving what? It really depends on each team, each driver, and kind of what they're doing for that specific session.
No, I agree 100%. And us in the tower, we're not going to know unless someone gives us the insight. I have a good idea of who came with extra tires. And truth be told, most people will come with 2 sets. So let's say they put on a fresh set Saturday and a fresh set Sunday, but that's not always true. I've seen a competitor go, man, I'm going to nail it next session, and they may only have one heat cycle on those tires, and they swap out immediately for the next. This is such a emotional sport. We are basing it off numbers, off of data. You said it yourself, you're a data guy. But you as the driver, if you go, I have it, it's clicked, I figured it out, give me full boost, give me all the grip, I'm going to lay that lap down today, the team's going to back it.
I think the temperatures are right, the conditions are right. You see the flag really kind of standing way out to the left there, and that's blowing basically up the back end of the competitors as they go down the front straightaway. It's a crosswind going down the back straightaway, so not really affecting the top end speed at all, but we like those cars with a lot of aerodynamic grip, and it actually might be playing a little bit of havoc in the S's if that wind continues to pick up, which in Texas it tends to do over the course of a day.
Absolutely, and we were here in practice, and the wind was definitely going the same direction. It looks like Mark has snuck his way into Cole Powelson's garage. Let's go down to Mark. Let's see what Cole has to say about that lap, and let's see if he thinks it was a great lap or he has more to go with it.
All right, guys, we're here with Cole Powelson. Cole Powelson just reset the overall time attack record at Circuit of the Americas. Cole, let's hear about this lap.
It's pretty dang good, as you could tell by the results. So didn't expect to go that quick right off the bat, but there it is. You know, I was very happy to come around and see 202 on the dash. So phenomenal effort by the team, and we definitely have more in it. So there's a few more maps of boost to go. Push those Garrett turbos to the absolute limit. We got another set of Yokohamas to throw on the thing too. So very happy to get it done this early. It's always the goal to get it done in the first session. It almost never happens. So glad the stars finally align and everything went as planned. So expect to get a little bit more out of it if I can do a good job as a driver and use that boost to my advantage. But very rarely do we get these ideal track conditions. So I'm trying to make the most of it.
Absolutely. It's a very unusual thing for a record to fall in the very first session of the very first day. So I was really excited for it. I know the fans are really excited for it. So how much power were you actually running in that session, and how much more do you got to go?
So we run an 11 position map, and we were on map 8. So we got 3 more settings to go. The car gets incrementally harder to drive on each map level up. So I'm going to look at the data, go over it with Mike, and he'll tell me where I can go a little bit quicker, where I can maybe bring the brakes a little bit deeper, and where the added power is going to be a benefit. So I'm going to work with him, review the data, and make something happen.
Did you think that you saw any glaring errors in the lap that you think you could pick up time immediately, or was it just a really good overall lap?
It was just tidy. I look back at the lap. What does my gut say? My gut says I was light on the brakes in a few of the heavy braking zones. And my goal for that session was don't overdrive, just bank one, and have a couple clean exits on the important slower corners on the back straightaway, front straightaway. It's very easy to overdrive those and get a lot of wheel spin on exit. So I was conscious of those things. So I know I can go deeper on the brakes. I know I can push a little bit harder on those corner exits, but it's not real until the time's on the board. So I got some more work to do.
So what are you really expecting to get you at the end of this event?
Oh man, we've already exceeded the expectations that we set going into it. So I don't want to be greedy, but I think there's another half a second pretty easy. In a perfect world, a full second.
I love it, guys. Well, let's hope that Cole can get us another second off that record, and we're going to send it back to Cuban and get out with Group 2.
Man, what a killer lap. And you know what? For anyone watching, if you saw Cole with the cheeseburger smile, that is his natural face. I'm sure it's a little bigger right now because he just set that record, but I've never seen someone so happy to be at an event, even when there is so much controversy, if he's having issues, etc. It's great out there, Cole. That was a killer lap. You say there's a second. Can you sub 2? I know you have issues at Buttonwillow, but maybe you can sub 2 here at Circuit of the Americas.
Judging by that interview, Cuban, it sounds like he's got a few more clicks of boost to go. So I think if the air temperature stays kind of where it is, the confidence is clearly flowing from the team and the driver. Who knows what we're going to see?
I agree 100%. And you know what? The best part about this is whether he goes faster or not, he went out there, he reset the record. That's what we chase. And you know what happens if someone happens to take it from him at this event? He just gives them something to chase again.
It's a bit like going up to
We
the
do have-
arm wrestle count. Go ahead, Cuban.
No, you're good. We're stumbling over each other here. We do have Group 4 going out. So Group 4 is going out. We did follow Robert Ruschan in the first session. He did set a very fast lap out there. Let's see who we can get out here today, but I'm so happy to see these guys. No issues whatsoever. These cars are out here flying. So I believe if we can, let's try to follow this beautiful white E46 M3. We caught him towards the very end of his lap. That's going to be Tim Turner in the car 17. He's just coming out of the hot pits right now. As soon as these cars finish their warm-ups, this is going to be the car we're going to try to follow. Tim Turner set down a lap he's very happy with. Basically, in the few minutes I had out of here while that amazing GLTC qualifying was going on, I had a chance to talk to drivers, and the overall view is the lap volumes are going to go faster. It was very cold ambient. Like you said, Joey, it was 46 degrees when the first session started. The sun is out now. It is still very chilly outside. But the difference is when it's chilly outside and the sun is warming up the track, that's when lap times drop the most.
Absolutely. You can have all the cold air that you want, but if the track surface isn't warm at all, well, guess what? It's not transferring that friction, that heat into those tires, and the tires don't get to do their thing. And it certainly looks like the sun is starting to peek through the clouds out there. So if the ambient warms up just a little bit, it still stays nice and cold in terms of that air temperature. But now you get the track temperature that warms up the tires into their optimal range, and all of a sudden the car has a little bit more grip.
I agree 100%. And for those of you that are new to this, a lot of people track their car and enjoy that, but they don't necessarily know the fundamentals of what we're talking about. This is at such a next level, and you know what? If you've been tracking a long time and you want to go faster, these are the things you're going to want to learn in the long run. Luckily for me, I'm an armchair racer. I've spent a lot of time on the track, but I'm not a competitor. I get to sit here and tell people what they're doing wrong in my very comfortable chair in the tower. But truth be told, these little things are what make the biggest difference. While we're waiting for Tim to come around, what do you think is the best way for these drivers to develop that next level?
It's just learning, right? Bring the pen and the notepad to every single session that you go. And we're talking about kind of the fine differences of when it gets warm and the temperature. But it all even comes down to as simple as tire pressure, right? You got to make sure you've got the tire pressure set before you go out, and then you got to check it up immediately when you come in from the track. You note the difference. You basically find out where the car is like and then all of a sudden you'll have a session that's colder and you'll notice the tires don't grow as much, or you'll come out and it's a really hot day and all of a sudden, holy smokes, they've grown 2.5 more than I predicted. So that right there just kind of shows the difference in what temperature can do, and how the drivers have to adjust it every session. That optimal lap time, that optimal car.
Absolutely, and it's like you said, it's all the little things. Tire pressures. When you learn tire pressures, you learn what heat does to them, et cetera, et cetera. So it does look like we have Tim Turner. He's going to be going through turn 20 in 1 second to start his hot lap. This is a very quiet gentleman. He's not robust. He doesn't want anyone looking at him, so I had to make sure to make it a point that everyone looks at him. Here's Tim Turner on his first hot lap of Group 4, Session 2. Take it away, Joey. Let me know what you see.
Let's make sure we hit the brake marker here. You see all the bumps there going into turn 1. Looks nice and tidy there with a late turn in. Great job at Apex, and looks like it's textbook through turn 1 at least here for Tim Turner, and actually already on the brake, so he's going to bail out of this lap through turn number 2. He might have just not been happy with a downshift or maybe the entry speed going in there, and he's just going to take this lap and get it warmed up. But as you see, just the E46, an awesome chassis to drive out here, and even through the S section, it's really light enough that you can throw it around and still have fun with it. The S54 motor that he's got, it's not the most powerful thing in the paddock, but even with the bolt-ons, it should still be making about 300, 350 wheel. That's about 400 at the crank, which is quite a bit out of a screaming inline six.
I agree. And, you know, more than anything, I don't think he bailed, by the way. He is a left foot tapper. So more than anything, I think he's still becoming comfortable with the car on the track. You know as well as everybody, turn 2 is a downhill off camber. So hitting that brake pedal with your left foot is just something to kind of give you comfort, though it's not a necessity.
No, and he could also be tapping it there. So the exit curbs, let's talk about the track just a little bit as we watch him finish the lap up. They are alligator-type exit curbs. Now, that means they're stepped. When you drive over them, it provides a rumble. It provides a huge vibration throughout the car, so you know exactly what's going on. However, it provides a lot of pad knockback. When you talk about pad knockback as a driver, you don't want to feel that at all. That means when you go and push on that brake pedal, all of a sudden you have no brakes at all because that vibration, it's pushed those brake pads back into the caliper. So that left foot tapping that you were saying, it could just be as simple as that. You tap the brake pedal, get those pads right up against the rotors so you have that confidence when you actually push the brake pedal.
No, I agree 100%. We could tell that he is still getting used to it. He did kind of back off down the back straight. So what we're going to do while he resets his lap and while these guys get out here laying some flyers, we do have Mr. Sims at a 226.356. I believe Mark has snuck his way into the garage behind Cole Powelson where Brett Dickey is hiding. Brett is from Australia. He is still trying to recombobulate because he is upside down right now, used to normal. So as soon as we can get Mark in there figured out on getting Brett to speak a language that we all understand, we'll go ahead and shoot to him. But it's nice to see Mr. Turner out there. He lit a 246.537, so he is still trying to get used to this track. Like you said, not the biggest power car out there. This is Tim out there having a good time. It was funny when we were teching his car, he was just looking at every BMW and saying, why do they all look better than mine? And I was just calling him crazy.
Yeah, I do find that a little bit crazy, and he's starting a new lap here. Let's see if he actually gets it up to speed this time. And that E46 looks great. Personally, I love the look that it's got going on. It's not overly done when it comes to the aero mods. It's still tasteful. It's still subtle. You know, it might not be the huge splitter that gets the most amount of grip, but I love the vents in those fenders. I just think that the car looks really nicely. And you even couple that with the simple white and red scheme. It's just... I'm a BMW fan. It just talks to me. It's a really pretty car.
I agree 100%. And while he's coming to terms with your love affair with his vehicle, let's go ahead and throw it over to Mark Yeager with Brett Dickey.
All right, we got Brett Dickey here with Project Import. They just exceeded expectations and did a 217 out there at COTA. Can you tell me a little bit about this lap?
It's pretty much what we expected to come into today, and we know we've got a lot more in it. We just got to fine tune a little bit, but it's good to see that the boys have put a lot of effort into the car and to see it go faster straight off the bat and a second faster in the first session. Looking forward to what the rest of the weekend holds.
Yeah, a second faster from last time you were out here. I'm pretty excited about that. So is there anything that you can think of right off the bat that's going to let the car go faster?
Straight off the bat, we're trying to find a differential here at the moment. So we're on the rev limiter down the front straight, the back straight, over the back of the track. So, look, I would like to see a low teen in the car by the end of the weekend, but we have to remember this car's set up for Pikes Peak. It's not set up for COTA and the long straight. So the guys at Project Import will be on it, and they're trying to find a differential to get us back out there.
So basically, if you guys know of any good S2000 diff with long gears, give Brett Dickey a call and the guys at Project Import. Let them go faster. We're hoping they can get down in those low teens, and we're going to send it back to Cuban. Thanks, guys.
What a great team, man. There are some privateers out here that have been pushing for decades. Project Import, the team Brett Dickey's talking about, they're one of the original teams to sign up for Global Time Attack when it started becoming popular, even before that when other series were starting Time Attack. So it's great to see them out here still pushing hard, doing everything they can. Is incredible. Now let's go ahead and take a look. It looks like Robert Ruschan is on a flyer here. He went around that beautiful Gran Turismo EG Civic. Oh, but he pushed himself too deep. What happens there, Joey? Talk to me. I've been famous for fixating and missing braking points. What happened to Robert right there?
He just got in too deep, right? He got greedy on how far he could take it into the brake zone. And talking specifically here at COTA, it is a steep uphill, and you kind of have to think of it a bit like a half pipe, right? Except it plateaus at the top right there at the apex. So if you carry too much speed going into that plateau section, well, guess what? When you go over the crest, the car is definitely not going to stop at that point. The only thing you can do is pretty much point it straight, drive it off the track, slow it down, and then get it turned. So all of the brake markers, always important. However, turn 1 at COTA, you really got to nail it simply because it sets the rest of the lap, and you can completely blow it without even getting to turn 2.
I believe the saying you're going to hear the most in racing is, you can't win it on the first lap, but you can throw it away. Same thing's true in time attack. You can't win the lap on the first corner, but you can throw the whole thing away. We have Tony Hodomarski and Steven Luca leading this session at a 2:21.161. This is the only Mustang we have signed up, and they're over here making sure they stay on the top of Group 4, Session 2 with a 2:21.161.
I recognize the name Steve Luca from a lot of sim racing stuff, as well as participated in a lot of events out there in the virtual world. So good to see that they've got the Mustangs tuned up, running hot around COTA here as these cars, the Subaru diving down into turn number 2.
Well, and it's great because, as we said, speed index, speed density, etc. After lunchtime, we're going to go ahead and regrid these drivers. So we have Steven Luca over here at a 2:21.161 laying it down, but the person in second's at a 2:25. That's a pretty big gap. We usually see a 4 to 5 second gap from first to last. So I think after lunch, we're going to see a nice little restack, but we do see these drivers laying it down. Now, behind this 145 Porsche is Mr. Corey Kreider. If Corey's going to lay down another lap, I think he'd be a great guy to follow. But more than that, these drivers out here, the lower classes, the street, the limited, the enthusiasts, they're the ones that are going to be out here every session pushing the hardest to go as fast as they can.
A general observation that I'm seeing on the track right now, Cuban, is the cars are starting to slide around a little bit more, and that could be from a variety of different things. It could be that the drivers are finally at the point they say, hey, you know what? I'm going to push it now while the temperature is good and the sun is bright, but it's maybe not too hot out there. Or it could be that the track temperature has finally warmed up. They were expecting it to be a little bit cold and are just maybe overdriving the car a little bit. The tires are squirming around underneath them, screaming for grip. And at that point, me as a driver, I have to recognize that. And it's kind of a bit of an oddity. Sometimes you actually have to go slower in order to go faster. Don't overcharge those corners. Just take what the track and the conditions will give you.
I agree 100%. And the thing is, we're all greedy, right? You give someone an inch, they want to take a mile. Same thing's true in a race car. They felt that they got an extra couple feet before they had to hit the brakes. They're going to take a couple more, and eventually they're just off of turn 1.
It unfolds just exactly like that. It unravels, and it can happen at any corner out here at COTA. But I mentioned it, during the first session. If you get behind in any of these sessions at Circuit of the Americas, you are in for a bad lap time.
I agree. And as this section's checkered flagging, I see Chris Matthews. We haven't had a chance to talk about him much in the 79 car. He just did a 2:33, 3:43. Let's see if we have an interview from Chris Matthews. We were blessed enough to talk to some of these drivers on practice day. So let's see if we have that to lay out there for you. While they're getting that all set up, while they're trying to find the interview with Mr. Chris Matthews, let's see if we have anyone setting a faster lap time out here right now. It does look like we have a checker. That Mustang is going to lead with a 2:21.161. It does look like we have Joaquim Sangard at a 2:25.175 in second place. So as soon as we can get these rolling out here for you, we will. But that is going to be the checkered flag for Group 4, Session 2. Oh, we got to be an even bigger. Mark is running up and down this paddock trying to talk to everyone he can. Mark, let's hear what's going on with these Supras out here. Throw it at me.
All right, here we got Kyle McHugh. He just did a 218.6. I will say he had higher expectations with a 215, but I think he had a little bit of car trouble. Kyle, can you tell us a little bit about the trouble you've been having?
Sure. So I just rebuilt the car in the off season, and we made a lot of changes yesterday. That's really in there, man. Really going for it. So we came out here for test and tune. I didn't have a shakedown yet, and we had a bunch of issues. The car is just like bucking and surging like crazy. So I feel like I'm riding a bull out there. It was going into limp mode and all of this shit yesterday. So it's been a real challenge. I maybe got one lap yesterday. You know, talked to some of my buddies, talked to my tuner. We kind of found out the issue. So basically there's a fuel pressure failsafe that was set for a static regulator. I've got boost reference, blah, blah, blah. We fixed it. So today, no limp mode, we're good to go, but I put it on the low boost map. It's only like 22 PSI. So it's really like the baby map. But
so basically we're looking at, this is his low boost setting. This is as slow as he could go, and it's only up from here.
I couldn't go slower. I tried, and that was the slowest I could go at 218. So we're looking good going forward, hopefully finding some more time, turning it up a little bit, and having some fun out there.
I'm excited to see what Kyle can do, guys. This Supra's got a lot of power. He's got a lot of potential, and he got a good driver behind the wheel. We're going to see him break that 215 later today.
Oh, I believe it. He's been out there getting it from the beginning. So if he has some little issues and he can get them sorted up, I'm pretty sure that we're going to see him run significantly faster. Here is Group 4 Session 2. Here are your times. It went from a 221. Mr. Wong, Tuan Ho, Michael Black, Tim Turner. It looks like they're still trying to figure out the car and figure out the sessions. Some of them were overdriving a bit, as we've gotten some comments on, but more than anything, this track is not easy. It may look easy on paper, but they really developed this track around multiple European tracks and then added their own little flair to it. If you read the history on COTA and what their thought process was while developing it, more than anything, obviously they wanted one of the best tracks in North America, but they wanted it to have history. They wanted corners to remind people of other areas. And Joey, do you know about the parts of the track? I believe a few of them are based off of Hockenheim. I think there's a 2-corner section based off of Hockenheim, and then there's a few other ones.
Well, I believe that this is a Tilke-based track, so a lot of times what those designers will do is they'll take corners where they thought that they're really cool over on another part of the globe, and they'll kind of incorporate them into their own track design. So I wouldn't doubt if certain sections are maybe modeled off of others or other racetracks out there, but the bottom line is that COTA is an FIA Grade 1 facility. It is F1 certified. It is the best of the best here in North America when it comes to road racing. That means paved paddocks. Look at the garages that pull straight through. Everything is top notch. So if you are looking for a spectacular place to race, Circuit of the Americas, and look at the day that it's becoming out there. It looks like the sun is out. It's really bringing out all of the paint on the racetrack. It's just a beautiful place to be, but something as a driver, when it gets bright, you better bring a shaded visor.
No, I agree. And the biggest thing about that is when you have these things in your eyes, it's impossible to drive. I have been driving in what would be the sunset, right? You have the light just coming down, but it's right in your visor, and it's not bright. It just makes it impossible to see.
And I think the biggest things here at COTA is just the sunshine and how bright it can be on the track itself. Now, yes, you do have the painted lines, and right here in March, it is green grass around it. It's not brown at the time. So you do have a little bit of color out there, but you don't want to be driving around the racetrack looking for those markers. What you want to be is comfortable in the car, approaching every single zone at speed, but knowing exactly where your reference points are, and that's going to bring out the confidence. That's when you get to go and go even faster.
Absolutely. And as these cars are starting to go out, we do have some cars here that are not only pushing to go fast, but we have Jonathan Wheeler ready to reset his record. If I'm not mistaken, we have a quick little pre-interview with Jonathan Wheeler. We talked to him on Friday after practice day. So before we follow him for his lap, let's see if we can hear what he had to say and what his expectations were here at Super Lap Battle 2024.
P Racing. Appreciate you tuning in and checking out our program. 2024 defending enthusiast class overall record-setting car. It's 370Z. It's road tracks by Top Gun, tuned by Eugene Turkoff out of California. Small program, nothing really custom. It just goes like the clappers. This weekend, we're here with Robert Ruschan. He's the CTR. It's the gray, red, black car. We're expecting a really strong battle with this guy. This is a guy that for years now is now chasing the same kind of Cinderella story that we had last year with a blown motor previous year, and you come back and you reset the record. And I'm gonna be honest, I think this guy is here to mean business, and we plan to turn this thing up tomorrow morning and get it done first thing. So 9 a.m., tune in, we're getting it done.
Man, I love hearing Jonathan Wheeler sell himself. He is very tense. He's a great guy to talk to under normal scenarios, but my goodness, John, I want to see a lap. Jonathan Wheeler is trying his hardest not just to win the enthusiast class because this is his final hurrah, but also reset his own record because, truth be told, no one wants to end on the bottom. If he shows up here and ends up losing to Robert Ruschan, who he brought up, or another one of these very strong competitors, that's going to feel terrible going into street class. So nothing but luck to him, nothing but luck to all of our competitors. While these guys are going on their warm-up laps, as you can see, it looks like the rest of the field is out there. It takes about a minute and a half to 2 minutes to get all the way around. So let's see if Mark has caught up with somebody down on the paddock while we're waiting for a hot lap to start.
All right, we're here with Rushton. He just did a 232 in his Civic Type R. We're going to find out a little bit more about it. How was that lap?
Yeah, it was a pretty decent lap. Ran into some traffic on the back section of the track there. Had some stickers on, was looking to go pretty fast. Did pick up a second that session, but car definitely has more in it. Get some clean track, definitely easy high 220s or, next session is what we're looking for.
All right, what was some of the difficult parts of the track for the car? Obviously, this is a front-wheel drive car, so what were some of the difficult parts?
Yeah, just a lot of new parts on the car. Got some new brakes. I was pushing braking zones. I blew one really bad all the way off into the runoff there. Some of the tight stuff, the balance on the car is really good, but as I get faster, I got to relearn that flow, especially through the S's as I get faster. So every lap is just relearning the car essentially as I progress.
It's a good thing to hear that you have good balance of the car. I know you put in some new performance parts. Definitely made the car a little bit faster in a straight line. How's that affecting your lap time now?
Yeah, we got some Fortune Auto 510 coilovers. Awesome setup. I've been running on Swift lowering springs this whole time, so finally got some true coilovers. So yeah, the car's running fast. We just figured out we had a wastegate issue. Looks like we're going to have another 3, 4, 5 pounds of boost available. So we're going to turn it up and see what she does.
Awesome. We're going to see him turn up the wick, and we're going to see him get going faster. Back to you, Cuban.
Absolutely. And behind Robert Ruschan, I don't know if you noticed, but he's got some Time Attack legacy helping him out. We have Mr. Nicholas Bright on his team, came out here to support him. Nicholas usually races with us, but I'll tell you, there isn't a more hardcore Time Attack supporter out there. He owns one of the original Spoon cars. He loves his JDM legacy, and more than anything, he just loves seeing people go fast. So with someone like Nick Bright on his team, I think Robert Rushton can do nothing but go far. It does look like we have this beautiful Supra laying down a lap right now. We did see Jonathan Wheeler almost spin on the final corner, so we know he's not going to lay down a flyer here. But let's try to track this car the rest of the way. Go ahead and talk to me, Joey. What are we seeing right now?
As we follow this one up through turn number 10 and 11, I just think the cars are still getting up to speed. I see that flag really starting to blow quite a bit more, and I noticed a couple of these cars on the outlap as well, really just struggling for any sort of grip on the racetrack. And once again, it could be a variety of different things. It could be the cars just struggling to cope with the different temperatures that they saw from this morning. It could be the drivers saying, all right, it's time to go. It's finally time to start laying down the lap times and being a little bit more over aggressive. And it could just be that the track is starting to get hot out there too, and everybody has to adapt to it. But we're going to see how it works out. This Supra's now down the back straightaway through turn number 12, and this is the slowest area of the racetrack. And if the driver is going to overdrive it, it's definitely going to show up right here. So let's just kind of watch the attitude here as he comes through turn number 15 and 16. You see the front end right there. It was really struggling for grip. That tells me that it was turning in just maybe a little bit too early. Maybe the front end just needs a little bit lower tire pressure, or just kind of adjust the line out there, maybe not take as much speed into it. Now through the final 2 turns here, turn number 19, looks like it gets it slowed down nice and tidy, and then through the final turn, turn number 20, make sure to clip the apex, drive it all the way out to exit, and there's what I'm talking about again. It looks cool, A+ for style points, but that is not going to put down a fast lap.
I agree, and you know what's crazy is that's a 225 with a couple missed brake zones, I would say a few late apexes, and he easily lost half a second on that final corner. That wasn't tense, that was multiple tenths. And what's funny is his projected time, his name is Brad Wilson, his projected time was a 2:35. So he's already 10 seconds ahead of his projected, which leads me to believe that he's excited. But what happens when you're excited? You let all that excitement turn into giddiness, and you see that final corner, and I'm sure he has an aim solo or some kind of predictive lap timer in his car like we all do because we're dumb, and he sees the lights turning green. So what happens? Gas, gas, gas.
And we saw, understeer early in the lap. We saw oversteer late in the lap. And just traditionally what that tells me is exactly what you said. It's just getting greedy, getting antsy in your pantsy, and just trying to drive faster. And I can't say it enough. Sometimes you gotta go slower in order to drive faster. Just take what it's going to give you rather than push the car over the limit where you actually are starting to scrub the speed.
I'm sorry, sir. You don't know what you're talking about. You have to go fast to go fast. Mr. Brad Wilson, the best part about his car is a lot of it is himself. It is obviously a beautiful A90 Supra, but he made the splitter himself. It's a homemade splitter, has Sabre dive planes and over fender vents, a Veris off-the-shelf diffuser with a hood center vent, TSW wheels. He's even on Kumo V730s, RSR lowering springs. Joey, this man isn't even on serious suspension. 225s on lowering springs. Eibach front sway bar, Hawk brake pads, just some good brake lines, and Motul fluids. He did what you just said. He took what we would call an HPDE car, added the few little extra touches, and he's out here competing, laying down some very impressive lap times.
We talked about kind of the technology in the new cars versus the old cars earlier this morning, and I think that this is a great example. It's a newer car, so it's got a lot of development already, and what you can do with simply bolt-ons, really just kind of unleashing what's already underneath the bodywork out there. It's a great example, and some of these cars nowadays have tremendous potential when you start putting on some of those parts.
Well, and this is Will Dries here in that Hyundai Elantra N running a 233. I'm going to tell you right now, I didn't even know about this car until Button Willow at GTA Finals last year. This was so impressive. This is very close to stock Hyundai Elantra N, and Will Dries is a known shoe. In the SoCal and just Time Attack community in general, looks like we got a black flag for somebody, but Will Dries is known to get into a car and get max potential out of it. Will looked at me and told me that he feels it is a better car than a Civic Type R. And I take his words seriously. So for him to tell me that, that means that the availability of aftermarket parts would be huge. And it does look like the black flag is a full track black flag. While they're trying to pick somebody up, let's go ahead and throw it over to Tim Turner in the paddock. We'll go ahead and watch this car get picked up. It looks like S2000. That is Ulrich Zerka and Jesse Zielinski in the S2000 yellow and black car. That is a beautiful car. Hopefully whatever it is, it's nothing serious. That's Rival Machine and UMS Tuning that support that vehicle. So while they're taking care of that, as soon as we can hear from Tim Turner, we'll go from there. It's hard to tell while we're waiting for Mark. It's really hard to tell. You look at this, Joey. I see steam. I don't see fire, smoke.
It looks like, so obviously the hood is off, and by the time the safety crew got there, the driver had already taken the hood off. So that tells me most likely he saw something temperature or pressure related. Now, whether that's water, whether that's oil, we're purely speculating over here, and they just shot the fire bottle underneath the car. You saw a little bit of that come out from the other side of things. So I think it's kind of up there in the front left section, but it could also be as far rearwards as the firewall. So that brings into play various different coolers, whether it be oil coolers for transmissions, differentials. It could be a variety.
There we go.
Of things,
we're getting full sprays. I think the best thing we can do is continue guessing in our mind and listen to Tim Turner, because you and I could sit here for 7 days trying to figure out what this is. Mark, let me know what's going on with Tim down there.
All right, we're here with Timmy Turner. He's here in his beautiful BMW. Hey, Timmy, tell me a little bit about this car. Tell me a little bit about your lap time. Tell me about what's going on.
Sure. Did a 241 earlier this morning. A little bit slower than what we were hoping for. Tons of track time to pick up still. Ran into a couple issues. Splitter came loose on one side and was rubbing a tire. So hopefully have that addressed, and going to move back out later on afternoon sessions and see if we can shave some seconds off.
All right, what do you got done to this car? It looks pretty stock under the hood, kind of almost, but what's done to it?
The motor's been gone through. It runs a 2M velocity stack kit. Rather than that, it's more or less stock. It's got some bolt-ons and things like that. Suspension set up pretty well. But yeah, not as high horsepower as some of the other cars out here, but definitely set up to have fun and hopefully go fast. So
Definitely doesn't have all the horsepower, but it looks absolutely beautiful. Beautiful livery. As soon as I saw this car in the pictures, I immediately said I need to see this thing in person. We really appreciate you making the car look good, and you're absolutely driving it to the fullest. So do you think driver mod, you think you're going to get some time in the driver mod category?
Yeah. Last session I went a little low on gas, came back in, but progressively picking up speed and learning the track more. It's the first time out here at COTA. So, definitely hoping to dip into the 230s, and we'll see what we can do.
Yeah, it's really tough being the first time out here at COTA. COTA is absolutely a blast of a track to drive, but I will say it is much more technical than originally anticipated. Myself, driving yesterday, definitely had a lot to learn. Which part of the track do you find most difficult to learn immediately?
Linking it up through the S's, kind of back where that elevation goes up into like 7 and 8, will definitely catch you off guard. If you're not ready for it, you don't place the car right, it'll give you some fun. So,
how many times you ran over all those curbs and basically just ran way wide on the track?
More than I could count. Yeah, definitely. So room
to improve, guys. All right, well, we're going to throw it back to Cuban. Greatly appreciate you bringing the car out. Really love seeing it. Back to you, Cuban. You guys have a good one.
Awesome. Yeah, it's great to hear from Tim. It's sad to see, but whatever was going on with this car, it's obviously fluid leak based. They're finding small areas to continue spraying. So is it oil? Is it fuel? I am unsure, to be honest with you. But let's go back to Tim Turner's interview really quick. So he told you about linking up the S's and then into the elevation changes. For those of you watching online, I know you can't see it, but Joey, tell me, how severe is the elevation change from the very first S to that fast left-hander at the end?
when you look at the whole section, it is pretty drastic. Now, when you first enter it, right, in turn 3, it is pretty flat, and that brings its host of own challenges, right? Because your reference points, you really have to look down the track, and if everything is flat, everything kind of looks the same. So I think that's the trickiest part of the first section of S's. And then through the middle part, it starts to gradually fall away. That's where that elevation that we were just heard, it comes into play, and you got to manage both the car hanging on through turn 6, which is that long right-hander in the middle of the S's where it starts to fall away from you. And then through 7, 8, and 9, that's when the grip comes back, because you start to hit that compression, start to drive up the hill, but then you get to that plateau point right at the apex there at turn 9. That is one of the tallest points on the circuit, and yes, you can't see over it. When you drive over it, the car definitely can get light, and there's all sorts of elevation that you're going to have to deal with here at COTA, and the further you can understand where the compressions are, where the light overcrests are, the more you can take advantage, put your car in the right place on the track to really maximize that lap time.
Absolutely. And you know what? This vehicle was having some small issues. I believe we had a chance to talk with Ulrich himself about this car in a small little 30-second snippet pre-interview. Let's see if we can get that up there for you guys. And I know he was talking about what his goals were, what he wanted to do today. So let's see what he was at with that.
What's up, guys? This is Ulrich Circa. I'm out here with Jesse Selinsky and his rival machine and UMS Tuning S2000. We're just out here running limited class, and we went out for practice and had a little issue with the car bottoming out, and we had to cut up our flat bottom and whatnot. But we're working on it, getting it back together, and hopefully ready for tomorrow morning.
And that right there is Time Attack as a whole. They had issues in practice. They fought through it. I saw them remove the flat bottom off that car, trim it, put it back on. The reason I wanted to say that is because if this car has any chance of getting back on track, I promise you will see it before the event's over. I do see a lot of oil dry under this car, though. And when you see a lot of oil dry, that tends to be a bad sign.
And you got to wonder how far the oil was leaking, at least if you're coming from the viewpoint of a competitor, right? Because if you want to go out there and drive and attack the track, you have to know that it's going to provide you the grip that you're expecting. So it might be that these cars that first go out after this little incident here might be testing the grip levels. Hopefully, it didn't look like there's any big puddles or any huge fluid leaks, so I wouldn't be too concerned over it, but it's definitely in the back of my head.
No, I agree 100%. And the biggest thing about this is the safety of the driver. Every single person knows that at the end of the day, the car's replaceable, the driver's not. You see fire, you see fluid down, you see this, you see that. The biggest thing you want to make sure is that you get this thing stopped and that everything else is safe. The car is the second thing you think about before the car. Now, luckily, track and safety, you've been here at COTA. We've run here 6 years now. These are world-renowned track and safety guys. They're there immediately. They don't let anything happen. They take over the situation, and they make sure that whatever damage is done is minimized from that point forward.
Immediately on the
That's
scene.
a lot of
and like
fluid
you
under
said,
that car, though.
Yeah, and so where it was really coming out was kind of right in front of the driver on the left side, and the way this car is laid out, that's not on the hot side of things. You see the turbocharger over on the passenger side, so at least that tells me it's not going to ignite because of temperature-related issues. Uh-oh, got to be careful there with the strap coming off.
But still hooked, bro.
I think
Do you see it?
Yeah, it certainly did. You're right, but I think it's going to probably be more from a line, like a pressure-related issue, or it could even be simple as a fitting.
That's the worst part. And you know what? A lot of people don't think about service lifespans, et cetera, et cetera. AN lines, AN fittings, these things are not a forever thing. Though they're higher quality than factory, they're not rubber, et cetera. They still have to be replaced. And no one is saying that they didn't, but it could be the smallest of things that could have caused this leak. Last year, we saw Jonathan Wheeler throw what looked like 800 quarts of oil out of his car down the front straight. And we're like, oh, motor's gone. It's blown up. He pulled off, got it towed up. His oil cooler cracked. He removed it, and he actually went out and set the record last year after seeing 800 quarts of oil come out of the car.
And I think the biggest thing here is we are speculating. We have no idea what actually happened and how much fluid is out there. So I think that's the biggest thing to put across over here, is that we are guessing exactly what happened, and just happy to see this car getting up onto the flatbed, albeit just having a little bit of issues. It's always such a trouble when we have these big splitters and these low ride heights to get these low cars up onto that flatbed, but safety crew doing a great job getting it off of the racetrack. I think that's actually a good shot right there, Cuban. We don't really see a fluid trail per se coming out of that kitty litter, so I don't think that with the flat bottom, like you were saying, the car has, it looks like it was mostly contained to within the car until it got settled and stopped on the side of the track.
Which is also great for them. Nobody wants to be the person that oils up an entire track. Good thing is, though, we still have multiple sessions to go. Yeah, me too. It takes a little bit of time to clean this up, and it's going to hurt some people's time. Obviously, they're going to see that they're going to lose their session here. But like I was saying, this is just before lunch. We have a whole bunch of sessions left for this day and all of tomorrow left. So that's not only a positive for the drivers that were in this session, but that's a positive for Ulrich and Jesse to be able to get this car back out.
And just looking at the cleanup, I think it's going to be minimum cleanup out here. So to your point, we're going to get action back on track as soon as the cars are safe to go out there.
Absolutely. And while they're cleaning this up, let's go ahead and throw it up to Jackie Ding himself with Mark Yeager. Let's see how his new BMW is treating him and what his expectations are for this year.
All right, we're here with Jackie Ding. He's got his BMW. He's dialing it in. He's doing the thing. Jackie, tell us a little bit about your lap time. Tell us a little bit about what you've been doing. Tell us a little bit about the car.
Sure. It's a pretty stock-ish BMW M2 G87. So far, we've done a downpipe and tune on the car with MS109 from VP, and it makes peak power 670. We only turned up a little bit, so it's at 580 right now, and pretty pleasant to find out that 580 can run multiple laps around here reliably. So far so good. We're going to start slowly dialing it up, see what we can get out of it, and get more performance out of it.
So when you get to that 670 mark, do you expect it to really hinder your ability to do multiple laps? Is that going to put you in a one-lap wonder situation?
We don't know. We really don't know. We haven't tested the car that much, and the only testing we did was in the freezing conditions. So we'll really have to just find out a little bit more aero, a little bit tire pressure adjustments, dampers here and there. Whole thing's fresh, so a lot of potential.
This is your first year campaigning this car, so you're really learning a lot as it goes. What are some of the things that you've really learned about this car and how it can perform and what it can do?
There is obviously a lot more weight compared to the Supra. I think in a similar stage we're talking 400 pounds more, which is quite a bit, yeah. But we have slightly bigger tires. Now we can take out a little bit more interior with a limited class, but it's just fine-tuning things is going to find us a lot of time, I think. So
going from street class to limited class, what do you think some of the fun parts about being able to modify this car in different ways? What is that really doing, and how is that really helping you have a good time?
Are we going? Stand by. 1026.
Looking for that golf cart, guys.
Yeah, looking for golf carts, guys. Sorry about that. We're talking to Jackie Ding here. We're going to find out some more information in 1 second.
It's like hamburglers, but with the freaking golf carts. Okay, anyway, what's the question again? I forgot, sorry.
So what's the difference between street class and limited class and how you approach this build?
Right, so with limited class, obviously there's a lot more freedom. You can do a lot more things, like interior reduction, much bigger aero. And as you can tell, we got a pretty small splitter going on right now. But this is what our customers will want, right? Someone who wants to street drive their track car, or be able to a trackable street car kind of deal. This is a very, very basic build so far. So a lot more potential, a lot more room to grow, and we're going to develop a lot more aero package upgrade, power upgrades, cooling, etc., etc. So it's going to go crazy from here. So
awesome, great to hear. We're really excited to see as you add more power to the car and see what you can do later on in the day. Back to you, Cuban.
Jackie brought up some pretty good points here, and I would like to bring them up to you. Our wonderful production team has made a great little thing for you to see. So let's talk about actual class descriptions. He talked about the jump from street to limited, and I know some of you may not actually know the big differences. So from enthusiast to unlimited is obviously a huge jump, but from class to class is not as big as you think. So let's go ahead and throw up those enthusiast class rules and we'll work it from there. As Joey brought up himself, the driver must be the registered owner. Now, time attack to us is like a drag racing mentality. We don't have a power to weight. We don't have any power restrictions. You want to make 38,000 horsepower? Good luck putting it to the ground on those 220 treadwear tires. Factory OEM transmissions only, minimal aero. So what that means is a 3-inch splitter, and the wing cannot be any more than 3 inches back off the car, and it has to be within the body line. Engine swaps are limited to engines available in the chassis. Let's go to the EG like we were talking about. In the US, the EG didn't have a B series, but in Japan it did, so you can put a B series in an EG. The tire brands are open: 220 treadwear, 255 all-wheel drive, or 285 rear and front wheel drive. Now you jump from enthusiast to street, and you get to actually get to the wheeling class. There are no pro drivers allowed, but you can still have somebody else drive your car. Same thing, unlimited aero mods, no sequentials, but dog boxes allowed. Moderate aero being a 5-inch splitter, your wing can be 5 inches back, and you don't have to keep an entire interior in street class. Everything from B pillar backwards can be removed. Engine swaps are limited to engines available from the same manufacturer. So we could say if you had a B series in your car and you wanted to run a Honda J series, you could absolutely do that. You have to run a 180 or higher tire, and then that's where you get a 265 all-wheel drive or 295 rear and front wheel drive. Now, Jackie made the jump from street to limited. Limited class is the first real big jump. Pro drivers allowed, sequentials allowed. No paddle shift unless factory, but sequentials are allowed. We were talking about small splitters and small aero, 3 to 5 inches. Well, limited class has a 14-inch aero box. You can go 14 inches wider than the chassis and 10 inches forward. Engine swaps are completely open. You could put whatever you want. You could LS it, you could JZ it, you could do whatever you want, and you can run any tire of a 60 treadwear or higher. Brand is open, size is open, whatever you want. From limited, the last jump is obviously unlimited for true time attack classes. This is pro drivers, unlimited engine mods, sequentials with paddle shifts, as much aero as you want, nitrous is allowed, slicks, etc. This is where you've gone to the point where you want to be at the very top. So we're back live here with what I believe is Group 2, Session 2. They got that cleanup done, and anyone who was paying attention definitely saw that when track safety wants you to get you off, they have so many little secret passages that it's not even funny. Now, this car we're following right now, this is Kyle McCoo. He is on his flyer, it looks like. This is the gentleman that Mark Yeager was talking about that was having some small issues. So this high horsepower car, low aero, Joey, talk to me about it.
Well, high horsepower and low aero means it's really up to the driver to understand the grip levels underneath and manage that, right? You don't have any extra bits like the big splitters and wings for the air to help give you that grip. So you as a driver have to go out there and start tuning on those sway bars, start tuning with those tire pressures and those shock settings, and understanding all of the areas that you can get mechanical grip out of the car. Couple that with the big horsepower, and you got to be able to put all of that power down. It's definitely a tricky combination because you want to go forward. You need to be able to have that power in order to do that, but you also need to be able to stop and to turn. You don't have all of the extra technology bits, all of the extra aerodynamic bits on the car. It's up to the driver to understand that and essentially extract that lap time. And honestly, looking at the Super go around the racetrack, it looks very, very well balanced. I'm not seeing the front end slide a whole lot. I'm not seeing the back end step out. So it looks like this is a very well balanced car, nicely set up.
Absolutely, and like he said, he was a street class competitor. He jumped to limited. We talked about all the aero allowed, but you can't just slap aero on a car. It takes time to develop it, right? So he's still on his old package, and he just did a 219 415. I'm sure you saw it as well as I did. He was very soft on turn in, right? His car makes a lot of power. His front end's not pointy. He just blew the heck out of turn one with all that power.
Well, and he also kind of slipped up on turn 20 to kind of complete that lap. So It also just tells me that the driver's warmed up, they're getting after it, and sometimes you do overstep the limit out there. It's just, you have to realize when you do that, realize the lap time is blown, and then throw it away and do a mental reset, get ready for the next one.
I agree, and this is your favorite car that we were talking about. This is Ravi Tomerlin in his We Don't Lift Racing Acura NSX, K20C powered. This is a time trial car. This is a NASA time trial car that he has just slowly been putting more work into. He did not believe the concept that power is everything. This makes 500 something, low fives, very, very calm car. And you know what's funny? You can ask him about this anytime. Last time he was on track, he was getting 30 miles to gallon.
I don't doubt it. You know, you have a light car with a very small aero profile. It doesn't take much to really push that chassis through the air. So not only is it being efficient in the power delivery, but apparently it's being efficient on the wallet too with the gas bill.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe not on the wallet to make a one-off car, but you know, we can split hairs on that one.
One thing that's nice about those NSXs, I mentioned it earlier, they're just so well balanced with the motor right there in the middle, the drivetrain being behind it and everything. It does everything by the book.
And he has now set a faster lap. His fastest time here ever is a 2:24. He just laid down a 2:22, and his goal is to hit a 2:20. So he is slowly working his way there.
While we were watching that, I think I saw the number 114 jump up to the top here in this run group with a 2:17.5 just in that last lap. So looks like Gary Wong is also turning it up out there.
You know what? I had a small little birdie in my ear tell me right before this session, and I forgot because of the issue with Ulrich. Gary turned his car to the moon. Everyone let me know that he set it up and he's ready to set a flyer. So Gary Wong, limited class, a 2:17.513. For those of you wondering, Gary is driving a BMW Supra. He's got 10 years of HPDE experience. He actually took second place at GTA Finals in 2022. His exact words are lots of hopes and dreams, bolt-ons and E85. That's the exact description he gave us of his car.
Sounds like a party to me, Cuban.
I agree. And you know what? It's not very often you see a Ferrari out here, so we'll talk about it for a second. But this is a Ferrari SF. This is being driven by Zhen Yang Wang of Grassroots Racing. His fastest time is a 2:19.027. But I was watching this car in practice yesterday, and he was laying it down. Let's see how he takes turn 20, and then we'll cut to Mark over here at an interview. Very timid, very timid. He's sending it through a lot of corners, but to be honest, if I was taking turn 20 in that car, I'd probably be very timid too. Mark, let's shoot it to you, buddy.
All right, we're here with James Howe. He's got a 2016 Porsche GT3. Last time he came here with a Subaru STI. James, how does that differ? How does it differ driving a Porsche to a Subaru?
Well, it's a lot different, actually. There's no understeer. It's a lot faster. I'm doing about 10 to 15 miles per hour faster on the back straight. So yeah, I'm pretty excited to be here. Hopefully we can get better times. Hopefully we'll do better tomorrow.
What's your current lap time?
Right now we're doing about a 2:30. We were on a 2:29 lap, but unfortunately we had a black flag. So, I mean, it is what it is.
All right, what do you have done to this Porsche?
It literally only has an APR performance wing, wheels, tires, X-Comp tires, and that's it.
Awesome. So pretty simple build. He's coming out here. He's running COTA. He's out here with Super Lap Battle Rafa Racing Club, and he's having a good time doing it. He's setting good laps, and we're hoping to see a little bit more out of James the rest of this weekend. Back to you, Cuban.
That is a great interview. That's a good man. He went from a Subaru to a Porsche, so he went Boxster to Boxster. He absolutely loves causing himself pain.
Yeah, but, you know, he got rid of the understeer, which, as a driver, it makes you really happy when you can control that back end with your right foot. There's nothing else quite like it.
I agree. And as you saw, that was Eric Fleming getting up to grid. Hopefully we can follow him for a full lap. He's been having small issues. He broke the diff in practice, and he was parking it in his last session because I believe he was dealing with some issues. So hopefully we can see him lay down a flyer. Here we have Mr. Wong, who ran a 2:17.513. It does look like he is on a cool down. This lap is checkered. The downside of fire and safety being out is the next session is shortened a little bit, trying to stay on schedule. But the good news is these drivers still got to lay down some lap times. So we have Mr. Gary Wong with a 2:17.513. Kyle McHugh with a 2:18.400. On his second lap, by the way, he went from a 19 to an 18, so it's nice to see him figuring that car out. Zhenyang Wang in that Ferrari at a 2:19.198. Sean Farah at a 2:19.289. It does look like all the drivers are locking in from first all the way to 10th, second and a half, basically.
We were talking about how close the run groups were earlier, and it's just doing exactly that. I can't wait to see, when they get shuffled up and everybody is still as close as we've been seeing this morning. It just, in my opinion, as a driver, it promotes competition. It gives you a carrot to chase to go out there and essentially be the fastest of that group.
Agreed. And as long as you don't take that too seriously, because you don't want to actually catch up to them. You want to keep your gap, and you want to make sure that during your lap, they're not walking away from you, and that's going to make the biggest difference. Some people need the mental. I could tell you, again, I've raced a couple GTA Pro-Ams. I just love driving on track. And I have found my fastest laps when there is somebody in front of me. Some of these drivers can push themselves on their own, and they get all the respect. But like you said, give me the carrot, and I'm going to chase it forever.
And every driver is different, right? And some people like having that carrot to go out there and chase. And the other great parallel to draw that it is it's not necessarily like having a coach out there in front of you, but it's having a teammate that you can go and take notes off of. And if they're a little bit faster through one corner, well, remember that for next time. Or if you eat them up through a corner, be like, oh, okay, this is what I'm doing. Maybe I should keep exploring that. So it just provides you that reference point, and it's always good to build your knowledge.
I agree. And you know what? With the final and fastest session getting ready to go out, we did decide to let Mark Yeager back in the building. Mark, talk to me. How was it out there? How's the feeling? Is it palpable? Did you get any numbers? Did you hit on Cole Powelson? What's going on?
You know what? That beautiful Cole Powelson, I was so excited to see him run that lap. I couldn't help but get out there and talk to him as soon as possible. Definitely a vibe in the pits there. Everyone is excited. Lap times are falling. It is absolutely doing great out there. So these guys are killing it. I'm hearing a lot of rustlings of turning up boost, putting on new tires. So I'm expecting to see faster and faster times today, even in these early stages.
Did you expect to see Gary Wong lay a 2:17?
I did, actually. I absolutely did. Gary's guy came up to me and told me, hey, man, we're turning up the boost. We're going to go hit this thing. And I couldn't believe it. I absolutely just am astonished that he's able to get that 2:17 in. Great lap times from this guy.
Well, and the great news is Kyle McHugh, after you talked to him, he had kind of an ugly first lap. He laid a 2:19.8, I believe. He kind of overshot a few things. He recollected himself. He came back and laid down a 2:18.4, so he's definitely getting that car together. And then Zhenyang Huang with a 2:19.198. These, like Joey and I were speaking, these cars are pushing themselves, and it's not one person just, okay, I'll put it this way. No one's Verstappening right now, okay? No one is pulling away and no one's keeping up, right? Every driver is stepping up their game, and you being down there, Joey and I watching, from what I can tell, we're going to continue to see lap times drop every single session with how it's going right now.
Absolutely. It's one of those things where I'm just looking at this and the lap times are so bunched together. This is exactly what we want to see. These guys are crushing it. They're doing exactly how time attack is supposed to be done, right? We have guys in the correct time deltas in the groups. This thing is running flawlessly, and these guys are absolutely killing it. I think when we reorganize and do some other stuff after lunch too, it's just going to open up that field a little bit more, allow these guys to really push these cars even further. Joey, do you have some insight for us on anything like that? What do you think is going to be happening?
I've been keeping an eye on the air temperature. Now, I don't know what the track temperature has been jumping up to each of these sessions, but it's still staying pretty calm at about 55 degrees. So I think you can continue to turn the boost up. I don't think it's going to rise another 10 to 15 degrees, but we'll just have to keep an eye on it throughout the day because people are going to eat some lunch. Moods change after lunch. Sometimes people get a little bit lazy. They might not want to push it all the way after in those afternoon sessions. So I think if you're looking to get after it, this session, like we've seen some of the competitors already do, it's a great time to take advantage.
I agree 100%. And like you said, it's so much going on out there. They got to keep track of track temps, ambient temperatures, all of that. So you as a commentator, us as commentators, even we have trouble keeping track of everything going on. So imagine being the driver going, okay, I had understeer on turn 11, but it's a little bit warmer. Maybe I should pull just a little bit of tire pressure out because we're going to get more swell. There's so much intricacy to what we're doing here that even us watching it, it's hard for us to keep track of it all.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely one of those things where I was talking to James Howe, and he was looking at his tire pressures from yesterday, and he immediately said he needs to drop those tire pressures down to about 28 PSI in those XCOM tires just to keep it in the realm.
We talk about car setup and extracting that kind of perfect lap time, right? That's what this is all about. And the best way to think about it, if you talk to somebody and they go, oh, the car's perfect, right? It doesn't need any change at all. And so you're telling me you can go take turn 1 flat out, right? Don't even need to hit the brakes, don't even need to turn it. It takes it just perfectly. So there's always something to work on out there. And whether it's chasing your tail to get the car to act right or improving your lap time, improving the grip that you've already got a great foundation on, it is just an always evolving circle.
Yeah, absolutely. You continually have to just keep watching out and checking everything on these cars. I was actually talking to some people, and they were saying as they hit those nice rumbles on the side, it was knocking their alignments out a little bit here and there, as you spoke earlier about, Joey. So definitely one of those things these guys are having to make sure they keep up on these cars, ensure that everything is tight, everything is where it's supposed to be. They're having to check things between sessions. These pit crews are working their butts off to make sure these guys are able to turn the fastest lap times possible.
No, absolutely. And we are here in Group 1, Session 2. These are the fastest cars, and with the Cole Powelsons and the Eric Flemings, it's so easy to forget about people like Thomas Smith. Thomas Smith is in the fastest run group in his Street Class STI because he is one of the fastest people I personally know. You'll attest to this also, Mark. He is a Las Vegas native, but we saw him at every event in California, period, because that's just who he is. He was chosen to drive the Long Beach Grand Prix when GTA ran it. He literally just lays it down. So hopefully we have a chance to follow Thomas Smith around this. I believe they're going to go ahead and get him going. Cole Powelson obviously starting his flying lap. But let's go ahead and see if we can get Thomas's lap going. We'll obviously let you know if another record is set like Cole wants, but I am very excited to see the lap times these guys are running. And more than that, Eric Fleming also has his car set away. There's Thomas Smith in his STI. Best part about that car is looking at it, you're like, why is it in Session 1? Watch it drive. Joey, I'm going to want to hear you commentate his lap because he's always been known to be such a smooth driver. He's an autocross guy, so he's an autocross record holder, a nationals guy, so he understands the car. So Joey, go ahead and follow this and let me know what you think.
I think the biggest thing that I'm going to look for is the limit of understeer, especially in the Subaru, the all-wheel drive platform. So it seems like with his experience, he should understand exactly how to drive it. And actually already pretty deep into turn 1 right there. So pushing the brake limits, I see that you could probably shave a little bit of lap time already there just with getting the turn 1 brake marker right. And this is where the Subaru, it might struggle a little bit on the change of direction, but it looks like he's nice and tidy on the racing line through the S's. So he's staying ahead of the track, ahead of the car. doing exactly what he needs to do, at least through this section of the racetrack. You see the tail wag just a little bit. That is exactly what I want to see out of the Subaru. You want to see rotation through the middle of the corner. That means you can plant that throttle, stay committed on the gas, not have to lift off at all, and a little bit of a wiggle through the compression on the kink there. Nothing to worry about. You just got to stay committed. And let's see, does he get the thing stopped? Yes, he does. So turn 1 has really been the only problem child that I've seen so far in the corners on this first half of the lap. And take a quick breath right here. Be able to go up the gears and focus on the brake marker. Things are going to get really, really slow now. If he's an autocross specialist, this is going to be his wheelhouse. The shortest distance around these next few turns here is going to be key.
Oh no, it looks like he blew that corner.
Well, I actually think
while
there is
we
a
go
public
here,
smoke down the straightaway
Cole
there,
Powson
too,
just
maybe.
reset the record at a 2:02.538, and you're right, he does have an issue. And you know what? Eric Fleming in that naturally aspirated LS 2:06.031, their first laid down lap. That is so sad to see. Thomas Smith was having a killer lap. You nailed it on the head. His only mistake that we saw so far was overcooking it just a little bit into 1. The way he could get the attitude of the car to go through the S's, every other all-wheel drive car here is fighting it, but Thomas is so far ahead of the track on those S's. I hope whatever is going on, he gets figured out.
Yeah, that's pretty heartbreaking for Thomas there. He's had such a reliable car throughout all the years. He always knows exactly where to push that limit to and kind of hold back from there, eluding some of those tendencies of the Subaru that they happen all the time. So he's really negative thing to see out of there.
To tell you the truth, too, I was kind of looking forward with his autocross experience. It was coming up to the section of the racetrack where I think he really could have crawled back that lap time, that little mistake that he made there in turn 1. So just really unfortunate to see. And, you know, being on a straightaway and being a turbocharged vehicle, my mind immediately thinks to boost, intercooler pipes, charge pipes, whatever you want to call them. That's where my mind goes to.
No, absolutely. And once again, he wasn't out of the car. Thomas is an experienced racer. He knows that until someone comes, he's not getting out unless there's a fire. Thomas sitting there patiently screams to me that this is not a fire scenario, and no fire under hood means motor probably still together.
Let's hope so, guys. Let's really hope so.
This is Mr. Zhao right here, by the way, in the R8. He's been competing with GTA for a while. If I'm not mistaken, this was the car last year that lost a wheel. Remember? The hub failed.
Oh, really? I did not catch that.
Absolutely. And you know what? They're so cool. They got it fixed. They found a shop local that works on R8s, got a new one. You know, to us, a Honda Civic loses a wheel, we're like, shucks. To him, that's how he was like. He's like, hey, I was racing. Let's fix it. Get it back out there.
Well, that was something I noticed with him at Buttonwillow, right? I walked into his garage, I was taking a look at the car, and I saw how he just cut holes in his front fenders and put fender vents. He literally is treating this Audi R8 as a Honda Civic.
My man.
He actually finished third place at 2023 at Buttonwillow with a 146.2, just to give you some reference for that.
And it does look like Eric Fleming laid him back-to-back. So whatever issue they had, he did a 206.031 and then a 207.258. Whatever issue they had, they're figuring out. Because honestly, for him to have the confidence to go back-to-back, that's big. Now, my guess is that he's going to go ahead and go back in the pits. There is Life Motorsports right there. Cole Powson with another record. A small round of applause for this man. It may be a small improvement, but he's doing a 202 on this track. That is incredible. Imagine being in that McLaren and knowing that a factory car that has been modified is this close to you. It would push me if I was Rob Bell to go faster.
Oh, absolutely. The 202.538 is absolutely incredible. I can't say how excited I am for Cole Powson and the Life Motorsports team. Before, they were sitting here and they were trying over the years, and they kept getting very eluded by not being able to get that lap time. They were able to do it in the very first session, and now they're able to back that right back up in the second session and throw down that 202.538.
I can't tell. Doesn't look like that's speedy dry, oil dry down on the racetrack. There does look to be small amounts of fluid where they backed up the car, but doesn't, like I said, or like you guys were saying, let's keep our fingers crossed that it's nothing too bad with that EJ motor underneath that thing.
No, I agree 100%. And while they're getting this all cleaned up, this is our final run group. There's a really good chance, because these guys are at the end of a very long straight, that they're not going to have the opportunity to lay another flyer. Main thing being track safety, track official safety is the most important thing in the world. He's over at the end of the back straight. So one thing you can see here, if you're a COTA, if you're in the time attack paddock, do not hesitate to go up the road there a little bit. They're drifting cars over there. You can get ride-alongs. Lone Star Drift has been a staple of Super Lap battles since year one, just like the Just Vibes car show. Awesome to see those guys out here. Looks like we have Gabe Zamora out here still going. We have 216, 208 in that car 777. Jackie laid down with 217, 882. And we have Mr. Zhao at a 218, 081. Cole Powelson, though, 2025. Eric Fleming, 2060. I think we're having some very exciting times here. This is going to be the checkered flag. As soon as we see the final cars go across start finish, we'll go ahead and give you some lap times. Joey, give me your impression of the very first day, the first two sessions. What are you excited about? Even more so, what are you expecting in the rest of this day going into tomorrow?
I'm excited to see who turns up the boost knob after lunch here, who's adjusting for those temperatures that we keep talking about, because it continues to get clearer and clearer out there in Austin, Texas. So who's making the adjustments to keep up with the racetrack, not only the car and turning that boost knob up, and then which drivers have also taken those notes, gone back and studied that in-car video and said, hey, you know what, I was over driving it here in this section, or I could actually push it a little bit deeper over here and let's say turn 11 and shave a little bit more of that lap time off. So it's the constant evolving, the chasing of the circle, but it's always bettering yourself and getting faster on the track. That's what I'm looking forward to the most, is the progression from this morning throughout the weekend.
No, I agree, and that's a great way to look at it. It's awesome to always get outside perspective from people who are obviously part of the racing community. Now, what I do want to do is I want to shoot this over to a small little 30-45 second excerpt of Cole from yesterday. I know I made a joke saying that man's face is always cheeseburger smile, but look at Cole Powelson right now. We'll throw him up there. Take a look. Hopefully you get to actually see his smile this whole time and not just his voice, because I know right now he's jumping through the moon, resetting the record again.
I'm Cole Powelson, founder of Life Motorsport, and I'm a time attack addict. So from the early days of watching the Sierra Evo rip around Buttonwillow, I knew this was the right sport for me. I watched their journey to World Time Attack and kind of said I got to be a part of that, and started the journey with my buddy Kyle, who owns this R35 here. We've had it to World Time Attack a few times now, and we've made it to every Super Lap battle. So it's an amazing sport to be a part of. Starting as a grassroots guy, as a mechanic, building cars with my friends, to moving up to the pro class or in the unlimited class has been quite the journey. And yeah, I'm just grateful for the sport, the fans, everybody who's involved that makes this happen, the sponsors that come out every year to support us. So everybody listed on the suit on the side of the car, it's a pretty special thing to be a part of, and I think this is one of the last grassroots events that you can take place in America that shows the true pinnacle of pro motorsport, but it's really accessible to anybody with a car that can go do a track day.
I don't think there's anybody out there that says it better than Cole. I'm really lucky he's a driver, because listen, man, if he wanted to take my job, he would have it. Me, Joey, Mark, we'd all be out of here, because that man is addicting. His smile, his voice. If you've ever seen him dance, that's actually the least addictive thing. But, you know, beyond that, Cole Powelson is the best. Guys, that's going to be the end of Super Lap Battle Session 2. We are going to go to lunch. We will be back at 1 o'clock. We're going to throw up the standings for you to go over. We'll see these classes, and make sure you stay with us and come back at 1 p.m. to catch Session 3. Here we have Rob Bell leading GTX class with a 2-minute 4.82. Willie over at a 2:01 4:01. That's actually pretty wild. You have 2 cars here right up Rob Bell's behind. Tanner Faust at a 2:10, Jensen Little and Peterson at a 2:14. But Rob Bell, this is the closest he's ever had someone behind him. Dussault in that beautiful Camaro at a 2:08.068. Clay Scherer at a 2:15.042, and then Sean Bassett in that tube chassis 240 at a 2:27.716.
All right, we got enthusiast class here with John Wheeler running a 2:26, Robert Ruschan running a 2:36.342, Stephen Wynn with a 2:33.214, and Michael Black with a 2:48.457. Street class. We're going to do Kyle McHugh. We got 2 minutes, 18 seconds, .4. Thomas Smith with a 2:19.81. Turner Dobbins, which I was really impressed with, 2 minute, 20 second, .228. Ryan Matthews with a 2 minute, 2:21.882. And Anthony Pearson with a 2 minute, 2:22.061.
And jumping to the 2 top classes, we have Gabe Zamora with a 2:15.994. Gary Wong turning up the boost, getting up to second place with a 2:17.513. He even surpassed Jackie Ding, Mr. Supra himself, at a 2:17.882. George Zhao in that R8 at a 2:18.081. And Zenyang Wang at a 2:19.027. And of course, Unlimited class, the Pinnacle class, the record-setting class, Cole Powson's class, a 2:02.53. We have a 2:06.031 from Eric Fleming, 2:17.912 from Brett Dickey. Any of you guys with a diff for them, give them a shout. And Eric Sutton at a 2:18.014. These are the leaders of your classes. We know that we're going to see these change in the middle of today and into tomorrow. So stick with us. Catch us again at 1 p.m. Texas time.
Link is the engine management solution for champions the world over. We know what it takes to win, pushing boundaries, performing under pressure, and having the best people on your team. Our tech support are performance specialists, available 24 hours and ready to talk one-on-one about your winning formula. Link ECU. The performance, reliability, and power to get to the podium.